Welcome back to that one random podcast. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Treble.
Look, we're going to get into it today. We're going to get deep into it. We're going to talk about these UK riots. So we're probably a few weeks late on this one, but I'm kind of glad we are because it gives you time to really mull it over and really see what's going on and kind of give you time to get your thoughts together about what you think's going on and do a little bit of research while you're at it as well. So I'm glad we've taken our time on this one. We've not rushed it. I think a lot of people out there are rushing footage and content out there simply to get views as well. Whereas we're not about that. We're about talking our truth, trying to give you the truth and break it down at the same time. And obviously, you know, this is a sensitive topic. Obviously, there's a lot of censorship around here. We're going to touch into that as well. So, but before we get into it, we kind of want to first of all say, you know, prayers and thoughts are going out to the families of the three girls in Southport who were murdered by a man. Innocent girls at Taylor Swift dance school, I think it was. Absolute tragedy. We do not condone any sort of violence, not just towards children, but to anyone here on that one random podcast. And obviously our prayers and thoughts and condolences go out to their family, because I believe that story has completely been lost in all of this. But, you know, we'll touch on that a little bit later on as well. We will go into that. First of all, how you been, bruv? Yeah,
I've been good. Crazy world we're living in, though, especially in the UK.
What's your thoughts, man?
I don't know. Everyone was hyping up this Labour government. I remember when the election was going on. Oh, we need to get the Tories out. They've ruined the whole country. Within, not even a month of a Labour government, we've had riots, murders, stabbings. The whole UK is on fire at the moment.
It just feels like it's gone mad out of control.
It's got worse, yeah.
Whereas before it was probably more financial, where people were just struggling with money, and there were things going on, don't get me wrong,
but not
crime rates and stuff like that. But this, it's just like, it's exploded, isn't it? It's like a bomb's gone off.
It's on fire. UK is on fire at the moment.
I know we don't see it in our day-to-day lives, like we're walking around, we're not seeing that sort of stuff, but with the footage you see on YouTube and stuff like that, on internet news, it's just crazy, man. Like, definitely not the country I grew up in, but and I was born and raised in, you know, it's just insane. But I think a good place to start will probably be, you know, we touched on obviously the, you know, three girls as well, the Southport incident, but we'll get into that in a minute. But I thought the first place we should start off maybe, I think the Manchester incident was first, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was just...
So I got some footage for that, and I kind of slowed it down.
Okay.
So we could probably talk over it as well, because obviously it's muted anyway, the footage is CCTV footage. But we can watch it and then kind of give our thoughts on it, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah? Ready for that?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So this is the clip, and you can see the police officers going over to the man who apparently there was a complaint put in that he committed an assault.
In the airport?
First in Manchester airport. So the first thing I've noticed is that you've not even tried to have a conversation with the guy.
But if he's a threat for an assault, he could be considered dangerous.
Yeah, but
you would have to just go up on him and grab him.
If you reported me for assault and the police came to my house, they would ask me, "Is your name such and such?" Yeah, cool. We've had a charge. Someone's pressing charges against you or brought charges against you for assault. What?
But you're saying they would need to ID you, but obviously if they got a report saying, we've got an assault in an airport with a high terror alert at the moment, guy in a blue top, blue trackies,
same process,
and he's in this location, they go up on him and they grab him and look at the guy swinging.
Yeah, but that's because of the way they've approached it.
Nah, this guy's literally just been called for assault. He's not a good guy.
No, but that's not how it works, because...
Look at this guy swinging on the back of the head of the... broken the girls.
Because they've taken the wrong approach with it. They've grabbed him. They're probably not even told him what to do. Right, you're nicked. Yeah, I guarantee you it. I don't know what was wrong with that guy, but look at the kicking to the face. That's police brutality. He's incapacitated.
I agree with that. I think once the guy's incapacitated, then it's excessive force then. But
in my opinion, as a police officer, your job is not to, make it personal, and to handle the situation in the calmest, most rational way that you're supposed to. Yeah, you're there to keep the peace, not cause a fight. So that police officer, I don't know whether he was charged up and he had two female coppers with him and he thought, I'm going to show you, let me try to show off how big and tough and hard I am. Went across there, ego-minded, clearly, grabs the guy from the neck, pins down, the guy's like, doesn't even know what's going on, Yeah, he may have committed an assault. He may not have. But you've just gone and grabbed him by the back of his scruff of his neck. And he's like, what are you playing at? Natural reaction is, as a human being, 2 reactions. Fight or flight. Clearly with this guy, it's fight. You're grabbing me. I don't know why you grabbed me. I'm going to fight you back now. Yeah, this is uncalled for. You've not told me what I've done wrong. If you turn around and say to that...
we don't have audio, so we don't actually know what the conversation was.
But he shouldn't have grabbed him in the first place. He should have turned him around and say, I need you to turn around, sir, because I need to have a conversation. Right there, officer, whatever. Can I ask you to turn around for a second? He probably would have turned around. May not have. If he didn't, say, I'm going to ask you again to turn around. If he didn't, now you grab him, right, you're not turning around, so we're going to place you under arrest. We're going to restrain you, detain you, whatever. But he's not done that. He's just gone in and grabbed him. You're not supposed to do that, right? Now, other people might say, well, if he had a weapon? Well, if he had a weapon, where's your guns? Why aren't you pulling them out? It's airport police. Where's your backup? Why is it you and 2 female police officers?
I think it was 2 guys and a girl.
Doesn't matter.
Either way, he broke her nose, isn't it?
End of the day,
he's assaulted a police officer. Why is he not in prison?
End of the day, yeah, you've approached it wrong. You've done it wrong. If I was
if you approach it wrong, does that mean that you don't need to...
If I was a police officer, yeah, I would not have approached it that way. Yeah, your job is not to do that. That's the bit people are missing, right? So he should not have done it that way in the first place. Yeah, he should have first said, I need you to turn around. If you thought he had a weapon on him, and the report was you had a weapon, he's got a weapon on him, then where's the armed police? Bam, bam, down. They should have the guns out. Come on, we've seen it. I've seen loads of clips of the armed police operating. They don't mess around. If they think you've got a weapon, bam, guns are out. They don't give you a second chance. Sit down or we shoot you. You lay down, put your hands up, whatever it is, they follow the instructions or we do you. So if he had a weapon and he was armed, why didn't you take that approach? You didn't. Because the report was probably a physical assault, slap, a push, a punch, or whatever it is.
So he's dangerous.
Yeah. So he might have been physically violent.
Yeah.
So you said, all right, well, now we need to have a conversation with you. Turn around. And if he says, no, if he says, oh, F off. All right, now
how do we know the conversation, though? You're making an assumption without...
No, but he went straight up to him and grabbed him by the neck. Where was the conversation?
There's about 2-3 seconds you can swear at somebody, right?
No. 2-3 seconds. Sorry, so I need to... You're going to get that all out of your mouth, what I just said in 2-3 seconds?
He might not have said sorry.
No, Treble, you're wrong there, man. No, Treble, no.
All right, fair enough. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
You didn't have a conversation. You didn't even give him... You're supposed to give a couple of opportunities.
Okay.
Yeah?
With a physically violent person?
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah. If you have a domestic abuse result of a woman, someone saying that, oh, my neighbour's, she's getting beaten up by her husband, and then he comes on, he goes, excuse me, sir, blah, 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 we've had a report. They don't kick the door down, right? Yeah, bang on the floor, get on the floor.
Fair enough.
All right. So if we agree with that's the approach they will take with domestic violence, that's the approach they should have taken with this, and they didn't.
Okay, so the approach was wrong.
So the police was wrong, absolutely wrong in what they did.
And then?
Yeah, and that ended up causing the violence. Now, he's wrong as well, because as an individual, the police have grabbed you in the back, you should be saying, whoa, hold on, mate, like, what have I done?
Well, what did he do?
Yeah.
What did him and his mate do?
Yeah, hold on, I'm getting to that point first.
All right.
Yeah. He shouldn't have reacted that way, right, as well. But at the same time, I understand everyone's different. Yeah, you're going to get if he's a violent, aggressive person, why are you going to try and aggravate him in the first place? But at the first point, he shouldn't have reacted like that. There is a process of complaint. Yeah, if a police officer comes and grabs you and throws you on the floor, you're just going to make it worse if you're going to start smacking them up. Yeah, you might as well just let them manhandle you, put you on the ground. There's a camera in there, right? I'm calling my solicitor. I'm going to have your job because of the approach you took. Mm-hmm. Yeah, or whatever you want to put out there. There's a process for that as well, right? So I'm saying there's faults on both sides, but the police officer could have handled that better. In the point, your job is to control the situation. Yeah, calmly. You're trained to do that as a police officer. It's like these coppers in America like that, where they just pull out the gun straight away at people. Like, why? If you're scared, you shouldn't be in a job. You've been trained how to handle situations. Handle the situation greatly.
Okay.
I'm sure he's been trained how to handle the situation properly, and he chose not to. Yeah? Because notice it was him who was the aggressor. The 2 female officers weren't.
Okay.
Right? He should have taken a different approach. If he'd had a calm approach to it, maybe it wouldn't have turned out like that. However, it did. Yeah. I'm not saying the other guy on the other side should have resisted. He should have just, all right, fine. You're going to put me down. You're going to cuff me. Fine. But let me let you know, I want my solicitor. I want the footage, whatever. And then you make your complaint later on down the line. And then someone can decide if it's excessive force or what was going on there. Right. Because even there's footage from Sky they're probably going to say that anyway because of the nature of the situation, because he was a Muslim man, wasn't he? Right? So he's going to say there's faults on both sides. But I agree, there were faults on both sides. Yeah, I think the police officer was at fault at the beginning. Yeah, but on the flip side, so was the guy, because you reacted violently and then started smacking everyone up.
Broke the female officer's
Yeah.
nose. So, but then do you think that should be punishable then?
What? The police officers?
For assaulting the police officer after?
I think both should be punishable.
But he's not in prison.
Hey man,
What's your take on that?
Yo,
but that's the main thing, really.
That's bullshit, in my opinion.
They're literally on camera saying,
I think the police officer needs to answer for how he handled.
He was suspended straight away
because he clearly was the lead police officer.
Yeah, he handled that really terrible. And once it's
and then the kick in the face on the floor when you've got him incapacitated now, right? So yes, he's a violent man. He's cushing at you. You saw the other guy, right? As soon as they put I don't know if it was brother, his mate, or cousin, whatever it was. As soon as they put the taser on him, he was like, because he had his mate backing him up, didn't he, or whatever. Yeah. As soon as he went like that, as soon as they put the taser on, he sat down. Right, okay, I'll stop. Yeah. The other guy didn't, so you had to taser him. You've got him down now. Why'd you boot him in the face? That's police brutality now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Your job as a police officer is to take the emotion out of it. Again, if you can't do that as a copper, why are you a copper? You're not supposed to escalate situations. You're supposed to de-escalate a situation and be able to talk to someone and calm them down. Yeah, if there's a nut job in a shop going, all right, I need you to calm down. Police officer's job is to calm you down first. If they don't, listen, if you don't calm down, I'm gonna have to arrest you. Oh, you can effing arrest me. Right, bang, now I've got to arrest you, you're just ignoring me.
But you also saw from the footage that
and we see a lot of that. We see loads of footage where coppers do that as well, where they're like, I need you to calm down. Yeah,
but after taking punches to the back of your, put yourself in a position, yes, you're trained to calm the situation down. But you've now dealt, as we said, he's dealt with it wrong by being aggressive to begin with, granted. But two guys who have been called for physical assault or whatever kind of assault in an airport, which is a high terror threat area, is now punching you in the back of the head, broken your colleague's nose. Okay, you've now tasered him. He's now incapacitated. Kicking is excessive force, but can you not relate as a human that some people just react differently?
No. That's your job to be trained.
Okay. But then...
You're trained.
All right, fair enough.
You're here to uphold the law.
Yeah.
And bring peace and deal with things in a professional manner without emotions. And if you can't do that, you don't belong in the police force. Goodbye. So that guy should lose his job. But that guy who's committed assault, both of them, they should be locked up in prison.
But they're not. So what's your take on that?
Yo, man, that's just some
They're
bullshit.
Literally actually...
That's just some bullshit.
They were back at home saying, we're going to sue the police officers, and everybody was backing it.
Although, all right, some people think I'm a Muslim because I have a beard and brown skin. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I guarantee if that was you or me, or a white person or a black person, we'd get locked up.
Well, this is why it's become controversial.
This is the problem with it, yeah? So I don't, in terms of the footage we just saw, I think there's faults on both sides. I think definitely the police could have handled it better. Maybe it will bring it a bit calmer. We've agreed with that. The guy they were trying to arrest, he's wrong as well. Because really, all right, it is the police. They've grabbed you for some reason. It can get sorted out. Stop. Why are you acting out violently now? But that doesn't help his cause. Because at the same time, if he acted out violently in that situation, then what about the complaint that was made about his assault? It goes against you. But he's not in prison.
He's actually trying to sue the police. He's got a lawyer, and then the two of them are at home filming it, and the lawyer's like, we're going to sue the police for the brutality. And then obviously later on the video came out, and yes, okay, we can argue that the police handled it wrong in their approach of it. But it's regardless that the fact that the guy assaulted the police officers and he's walking around free. Yeah, while you could have a meme that's considered offensive and get you locked up.
I don't agree with that at all. 100%. Those two individual men, I don't care what race you are, wherever you come from, I don't care. You've broken the law still. Yeah, because all right, the police officer might have been wrong in how he went about it. However, still a police officer, still an officer of the law. He's asking you to basically come with him. Yeah, I need to cuff you, you're under arrest. You might not have done it right. But in that situation, you just like, all right, hold on, you might get a bit aggressive because someone's grabbing you naturally as a human being.
If you know how to start swinging.
Someone walked on me and grabbed my back of my neck, random bloke on the street, and I didn't know, then I'm going to start swinging, to a degree. If I thought it was a police officer, I might I might move around a little bit, like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Be a little bit resistant.
Trying to shake you off kind of thing, like, what are you doing to me kind of thing, yeah? But at the same time, you're going to have to submit to it as well, because at the end of the day, that could go horribly wrong if you start smacking them in the face and start fighting them.
Broke her nose,
If
came in the back of his head.
Let them cuff you and say, all right, what the hell have you cuffed me for? What is going on here? Yeah, you're not even explaining to me what's going on. Yeah, later on down the line, I can make a complaint how they've gone about it. Yeah, and you'll probably still be able to take him to court, still have his job, still get compensation out of it. There's loads of stuff like this that's happened, right? So I don't agree with the fact that they're still walking around on the street, because they're dangerous individuals, clearly. Yeah, there's an assault that was committed, which led to the police officers coming to you, and then you've gone on and reacted the way you have. And out of the two, he was probably the most violent one. You know, with the other one, I felt he hesitated at the beginning and then jumped in, thought, oh, well, that's my brother or whatever. And he jumped in and started backing him up. But the other one, he was whacking the female police officers. Look, end of the day, like, I know a lot of people say female police officers, but then if that's the case, then we shouldn't have female police officers. Yeah, that's the risk you take as a female police. Same risk that a male police officer takes, a female police officer takes as well. Yeah, you may get assaulted, you may get shot, you may get stabbed. Yeah, you can't turn around and start saying, oh, it's a woman. Yeah, I get where you're coming from. But at the same time,
still,
she's an officer.
An officer had their nose
so
broken.
let's take the female part out of it.
Take the female part out of it.
3 officers were just assaulted. Yeah, and that ain't right.
And they're now trying to sue the police.
There should be repercussions for those individuals, and they should be in a courthouse on trial with a jury. Yeah, do you know what I mean? All that normal stuff that we would all go through, that should happen. So I don't agree with that either. Yeah. But it's weird what's going on. We're going to get deeper into this conversation, because we're going to talk about 2-tier policing in a minute.
Kickstarted it, didn't it?
Look, I think this is what was like. I think this was before the incident with the girls. Yeah. But yeah, I don't agree with as to what you're saying here. I 100% agree with you as well, that these guys shouldn't be running around on the street. They're violent individuals. They need to be dealt with. And now we've got them on the street thinking that they're above the law, which is the worst thing you can do for anyone, is make them feel that they're above the law. Cool, we hear your point. Yeah, he handled it wrong. Whatever, blah, 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 right. He can't be a police officer anymore, whatever, or he's suspended, or whatever it is. Here's your compensation. But guess what? You broke the law as well, because you started violently attacking the police officers when you should have just given in, and you could have complained later on. You could have placed a complaint later on about the incident. Right, here's your sentence, blah, 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 blah.
That's my take.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, that's how I see it too. And it's just a lot of people, when we review the footage and we talk about this Manchester airport situation, a lot of people just stick with the police brutality narrative, and they forget to look at the fact that these guys also assaulted the police officers, and they're not being. That conversation is not really happening.
Yeah. That part of the conversation, that bit of the conversation is an important part of the conversation, and you're right, it's not being had. Yeah, because people are scared to have the conversation or whatever it might be.
Bro, they're literally on a sofa talking about they're going to sue the police, and everybody's commenting like, "Yeah, police brutality."
But I saw another guy saying that. And this was a Muslim man again. Yeah, I don't know what his role was. I can't remember what his role was. But I remember him that he was being interviewed. And he says, yeah, I want those police officers, blah, blah, blah. What they did was I'm like, yeah, but you know your dude who you're backing up smacked up 3 police officers, yeah? Yeah. So in a sense, broke the law and potentially committed an assault before that, which led to
that in the first.
So that's potentially 4 assaults.
Yeah.
So regardless, yes, the police were wrong in their approach. However, but there'll be some people out there say, well, if the police officer didn't take that approach, then the fight wouldn't have happened. And I'll go, but yeah, we don't know that. Because we just discussed that now, haven't we? Which we wouldn't have known that. Yeah. Because for all you know, he might have asked him once, twice, and then said, piss off. But then at that point, now you're at bang to right to now just grab him, pin him to the floor and say, right, we're nicking you. Yeah. But I think it's criminal that the fact that those two are walking around on the streets.
It'd be interesting to see how the case develops, because I obviously this is just what's on the mainstream. There's nothing really, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Maybe there are court orders and stuff like that, but they're not really talking about it on the news. They just put the police brutality video up, and then obviously later on the police released the CCTV, but it's been pretty quiet since. I've not seen anything on the news regarding this anymore.
But the thing is, I've not heard, obviously we're both very much alternative news outlets. We don't listen to the mainstream news, right, too much. But alternative views pretty much covers it really well anyway. But then you generally get the truth. You still got to research it because I'm obviously where information comes from. But I've not even heard alternative news talk about it. It's gone into the next realm.
But that's the thing. It's been the news is now flooded with new stuff.
And it's just like everyone's forgotten.
But this was a catalyst to all of the new stuff as well. To be fair.
Yeah, this was a kickoff to it all.
Yeah.
Then we had the obviously sad case of which we touched on at the beginning: 3 girls murdered. It's shocking, man. Like it's, I don't know what else to say about that, man. Like we've talked about
brutal, isn't it?
Protecting children and stuff like that here before. You know, our views and thoughts on how kids need to be protected in all areas and all realms, in a sense. And for 3 girls, innocent girls who were just having a fun time at a dance school, some guy walks in random and decides he's going to kill everyone in there. Is I don't know, what's your thoughts or what's your deep?
Yeah, it's just sickening.
But the thing is, now it's interesting because I saw a clip today, a video from someone today, and I thought, but then it was a very hateful video. You could tell as well from that individual the way he was talking about it. I thought, I don't really, I'll listen to you, but then at the same time, I've got to take a little bit of caution with listening to you because it's coming from a place of hate, and you can tell. But originally they were putting out there that he was a Muslim. Now apparently it's come out that he wasn't a Muslim. He was in fact, so his parents were Rwandan migrants. This is in, was it Wales, whatever they lived out in, where he lived. And he was born and raised here. And they're Christian. They're not Muslim. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I've not...
Remember, the big thing was about he was a Muslim, wasn't it? Again, because they were trying to make out he was a Muslim.
Don't really remember seeing that in the articles, but I can imagine.
I mean the
narrative was
side and all that.
Ah, okay.
The narrative.
I did hear that he was a migrant. Obviously, if you're saying he was born and raised here, that's...
Some were saying he was a Muslim.
I guess descendant of...
But...
I mean, it's just sickening. Like, what happened to the British values that we all grew up on?
Do you know what? You know what the funny thing is, right? Okay, you look at history, right, in this country, right? What was their names again? You had the 2 couples, right, who were white, who used to kill... Jesus, what was that freaking street? I've forgotten now, right? There's so many things that happened in this country. You know, we've got Peter Sutcliffe and all this sort of... He was a killer. He used to go around killing prostitutes or whatever it was back in the 70s, whatever it was. You had the wife and husband couple who were white as well. And I remember, was it in the 90s? They dug up their basement and found all these bodies of dead girls. Shit. Young girls that they used to rape and murder or something like that. So to turn around and say what's happened in Britain, these things have always been there. Like come on, we've had Jimmy Savile come out in the past few years as well. What's happened to Britain? You know, there's a lot of things that probably haven't come out in public. You know, but it's always been there, and that was when there were low numbers of migrants coming in every year. So you still had those problems going here. Child trafficking, pedophiles, murderers, you know what I mean? So to turn around and say from that aspect, what's happened, yeah, all right, maybe you might want to argue, was London were the streets cleaner? Probably, yeah. Can't disagree with that. You know, was it potentially safer back then? Maybe, who knows? But to turn around and say, oh, you know, these are like new things that have come out because we've got migrants in this country, I think that's bullshit. Like, I was born and raised here. I remember watching the news as a kid when it used to be on in my house, and you saw all these sort of crazy stuff, these like crazy stories of, you know, serial killers, and they were white. So to turn around and say it's a migrant, no, it's not, man. You've always had these sort of problems going on in this country. I think that's a cop out and bullshit. I think that just shows, for me, there's a lot of there's still a lot of racism and bias and prejudice among white people. You know, you fear what you don't understand, and if you're suddenly if you've been living in a white community all your life, and suddenly now it's getting packed full of brown faces from abroad. And I'm not saying that they're good or they're innocent. They do bring their shit. I don't know if they were Armenian or something. Have you seen this on social media?
I don't know.
So a guy drives past, and on the street outside their house, they're clearly migrants. I think they're from Bulgaria. They look like Bulgarian or something like that. They had a pig on a spit, and they were cooking it in the street. And I was like, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah.
Do that shit in your back garden, mate. Why are you doing that on the street? And he's videoing it, and I was like, oh my God, like, that's crazy. Like, that kind of shit, you don't do that here. That's not what the UK is like. Because traditionally we don't, do we?
But why not?
We don't do that. That's not how we do our business, do we?
But this is the whole thing about the whole.
But is like, I'm not saying it's the end of the world thing, but it just shows how much it's, and this is where I feel like people who want to keep that tradition, like, to me, I thought it was just crazy. I just laughed.
No, I think it's crazy too.
I just thought it was funny. I just laughed my ass off. Yeah, I thought, okay, it's not the end of the world though.
But then, like what you said,
he's not hurting anyone. He's not killing anyone. He's not beating anyone up. He's just cooking a pig on a spit. But instead of doing it in the back garden, he's doing it out in the street. All right, he's not in the middle of the street blocking anyone. He's there. Anyone comes by, you're safe, kind of thing. Like, do you know what I mean? You're not going to get hurt. But I just thought. You can see that from the person who made the video, or any white person. Like, well, see what I mean? Look what they're doing. Like, for them, it's not normal. We don't like it. We want you to do it the way we would do it. Do it in your backyard. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think what you said earlier about, especially when it comes to like stuff like racism, it's a matter of a lack of understanding, isn't it? It's a fear of not understanding their stories or their culture and how they do things. And obviously when you're so used to your modern way of, or your country's social way of doing things, and then you see a new way of it, you fear that and in a way reject it.
Do you know what? I think
that's what it is.
I think there's a subconscious, in your subconscious, though those individuals, there's a fear as well.
Yeah.
That they don't realise and probably haven't tapped into yet, right? Where I feel like, especially with white people, they fear what their armies, militaries and leaders and even their ancestors have done to other nations like India, Africa, continents like Africa and stuff like that, colonized and raped it for these resources throughout history, and they're still doing it now, to fair, just at an economic level now. Yeah, I feel white people have this deep fear inside of them that they feel like the tables might get turned on them. It's really interesting. I remember, like, especially in America, like, someone saying that when they talk about race in America, right, and the issues that they have over there, that argument over there, that white people are like that. The reason they attack out against black people is because they fear that black people may gain control in somehow and then flip it on them. So kind of like what's going on in South Africa to a degree.
What's going on in South Africa?
So like you look at South Africa, it's really weird, South Africa, right? For me, Nelson Mandela didn't do shit for South Africa personally, but it's still in the same state it is now. So if you go to the ghettos now, you still got black ghettos and they're still living in slums, yeah? Mm-hmm. But what you notice now, there's a lot of white people living like that now. So it's kind of like the tables are turned because the black people have all the power. There's still old, rich, white money there who still have their position. Don't get me wrong, they haven't lost it, but they're just not in control, if that makes sense. And it's very much where now the white people are now living in slums and shacks and...
In South Africa?
Yeah. I've seen documentaries of it on YouTube. And that's what I think white people fear the most. That the more and more come into the country, if we become the minority, which they're not, and I've heard people, even white people, who say, we're the minorities. No, you're not. Shut up, you idiot. Yeah. But I think that's what they fear. That something like that would happen. I think deep in their subconscious somewhere, I feel that there's a deep fear of that as well.
Yeah, and I guess the programming is quite strong to push that fear, because obviously you look at Hollywood and the music industry and the way that they describe or present certain cultures, say even in music, like whenever you listen to, I'll put quote unquote like black music, like hip hop and stuff like that, it's always about guns and violence, especially in the modern, it's all trashy kind of degenerate behavior. So when you see that on the news and they glorify it, and then you start seeing people walking down the streets with their hoodies on and stuff like that, it is subconscious programming that's something to be feared, isn't it? They're literally on music videos talking about stabbing each other, and then obviously, just because he's wearing a hoodie doesn't mean that he's a bad person.
The drill music's in here, isn't it? Yeah, it is, man. It's like
it's subconsciously programming you to be scared a little bit.
When I was younger, obviously back in the 90s, obviously West Coast gangster rap was like top in the charts in hip hop and music in
literally
general.
early
And
2000s,
Tupac
late
and
90s,
Snoop and Dre and all those guys. You know what I mean? Yeah, Suge Knight, all that sort of stuff. You know, you even had Biggie bring him out the East Coast, and then obviously that beef started and stuff like that. But never once did I ever listen to that music. I just think, yeah, this is cool. Yeah, listen to their stories and they're giving you. But never once did I feel like I need to pick up a gun and go start shooting people, or I want to be a gangster.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to be a really weak-minded individual if that influences you that way, if music influences you. And I honestly believe you are a weak-minded person if you allow it to influence you like that, in my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But you look at it now, it's like you get like the drill music scene here, right? It feels like it's almost a weapon because they start talking trash about the opposite gang that they're in. They've got a rivalry with, and how many of theirs they've killed.
Yeah,
and all
it gets very graphic.
Yeah, and I think it's gone to a point. Whereas you look at someone like Tupac. Tupac wasn't like a thug on the street going around, but he might make a song about it. Biggie apparently wasn't the drug dealer he said he was, but he made a song about it. He's like, you're just telling street stories in a sense, but you would kind of do it from the first person like it's you, and it's not. But these guys nowadays, I listen to it and I think, it's not even music anymore, man. It just feels like...
It's almost like a confession.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what I mean? So like, but yeah, like you look at the drill scene and stuff like that. So, and going back to the point you were just making, yeah, I could see... especially if you're a white person, you'd be shitting your pants, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. It's subconsciously, the way that the media, I'm talking music and Hollywood and TV shows and stuff, the way that they present the different cultures, especially black people, for example, is always in a negative light. And that subconsciously programs the people.
Yeah, I can't disagree with your point there. I mean, I think... I don't know, it's a hard one, isn't it, though? Like, you try to... see it from both sides as well, but then we'll get into it a little bit more. It's going to get deeper anyway as we go along. What do you think of the media coverage?
In general, or
of this,
of
the whole situation?
I don't really like media coverage at all, to be honest. I think.
Have you ever seen it? Like, have you read any articles? Like, I've watched a bit of the media stuff. Like, not even necessarily media. Like, even the YouTube channels have been like showing the media channel. Oh, this is what Starmer said, and this is what. Where Starmer's like turning around and saying, I think I might have some footage of that.
Which topic are we talking about?
So about the UK riots. What's going on recently?
Riots. I don't know. I think Starmer's... I don't like the guy, to be honest with you.
I don't like any politician.
Yeah, I don't like any politician, but something about this Labour government. The worst thing about the Labour government and Starmer is that the people that support it are kind of like... They're brainwashed into believing that this is the party for good, and they can't see through the mist and the smoke and mirrors of it all. It's
not the party for the working man anymore.
It's not, but people really still will hold on to that belief. Like, oh yeah, if you're, as I said, look, I'm not white, I'm brown. People think, oh, because I'm brown, I should be supporting Labour because it's a party for the people. But I'm like, but I'm looking at it from a bigger picture of this is all bullshit.
But would you say media coverage is one-sided?
Media coverage is one-sided overall, yeah.
Yeah. Like we've kind of like debated here, and we're talking about both sides. Of where both sides might be wrong in their approach, or whatever might be going on or being said. Do you feel like media side is just picking one side?
Yeah.
Which side do you think that is, from what you can see?
I feel like they are, in a way, supporting the violence, because the way they cover it is that it's like these guys are oppressed, and so the violence is needed. And then, but on the contrary, when it came to the more right-wing, quote-unquote, riots, the media were very quick to shut that down in terms of these guys are wrong.
Yeah.
So I guess it is biased to a certain narrative. What do you think?
I agree, man. Like, I agree. I think you should be telling, like, news should be news, and you should be talking about both sides of the argument. You should be objective in your approach. And you shouldn't have a side, but I feel definitely they're spinning one side and another side. I mean, I'm going to show some footage now.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And this is where I suppose I'm going to have to say it, the Muslim side of this argument are walking around with weapons and stuff, and how they're doing it well, let me play the shot, yeah. But they walk into the shot of Sky News, I think it is, from the back, and they're carrying weapons. And then the lady goes, "Well, let's pan away over here, away from these men here." But they're carrying machetes and all. You want to see it?
Yeah, I've not seen that.
All right, come on, let's see it. All right, we'll play it now.
That's mad.
So then the counter-protesters began to arrive to the police lines. As the so-called Muslim patrol can also be seen openly carrying weapons into the protest. And even in front of the police, they're waving around machetes. So the police began riding into the British protesters, but it just looks like they're the cavalry riding in front on the side of the counter-protesters, as several British protesters get arrested. They also get beaten and bitten by their police dogs, as the police openly tell the counter-protesters they are there to specifically protect them.
No, we all understand, yeah. Appreciate that, what you're doing, thank you.
But are told they don't need their protection.
We don't need you, we got ourselves, mate.
And even when the media accidentally shows them carrying weapons...
Then there was this, as I say, clash between protesters and the police, and that is when they then ran off across the park here. A big group ran off, looking for trouble, it looked like, to us. So we're just going to step away now from this group behind us, but...
The police liaison just tells them to discard them.
If there's any weapons or anything like that, what I would do is discard them as well.
So when the police were questioned about their two-tiered policing...
Are we going to end two-tier policing, sir?
The cop just stole his mic. And when their new Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, was asked about it...
What do you say to these accusations about two-tier policing?
There's no two-tier policing. There is policing without fear or favour, exactly as it should be.
But here's Keir back when there were BLM riots in the UK.
To the peaceful protests, to people rightly demanding justice, has been an affront to humanity.
And here's Keir during the current riots in the UK.
Those that have participated in this violence will face the full force of the law. The police will be making arrests, individuals will be held on remand, charges will follow, and convictions will follow. I guarantee you will regret taking part in this disorder, whether directly or those whipping up this action online.
And it's true, they are currently arresting people in their homes over essentially thought crimes.
Arresting you on suspicion of improper use of the electronic communications network. This is in relation to some comments that you've made on a Facebook page.
I'm going to be arrested for posting on Facebook.
Made some comments that are offensive, obscene, and people have made a complaint about that.
As even the media is being deserted in the streets.
Because free Palestine! Free Palestine!
But I think, apologies for the language you're hearing, but a sense of I think you can hear there.
Yeah, Katie, I think Becky, I apologise. We need to leave you there and...
And it didn't end there, as a journalist posted what happened next.
No.
He's gonna
do the same to us.
And that wasn't the only random car that was attacked, or even their police cars get chased away. But when you look on Reddit, they're only talking about the British stopping cars in an alleged racial checkpoint, showing the protesters blocking the streets but right in front of the police. But nothing on Reddit regarding the counter-protesters also blocking the streets with zero police in sight, where I can't show everything, but they chased down, stomped out, and stuffed this guy literally into the street. They surrounded this random pub with British citizens inside.
They're smashing the pub up, they shouldn't do that, man. That's wrong, I don't agree with that.
And when this poor guy was standing outside, the mob mercilessly stomped him into the ground, and then began shattering the windows of the pub.
What do you think?
Holy shit, I didn't see that footage. I saw stuff similar to that, but I've never seen it compiled like that. Wow. Yeah, it's fucked, man. I think...
Very much one rule for one and one rule for
We're living in a movie. Like, even when the chief comes and grabs the microphone, like, this is some... If you put some cinematic music on that, all of a sudden this is like some Hollywood movie. What is going on?
Mate, we're both from the ethnic communities, right? Okay, from ethnic backgrounds, right? Right? and even I know, right, okay, I don't care if it offends people, yeah. One, I know BLM is a scam anyway, right? We know that, right? The actual organisation of BLM, the people that run it.
Funded.
Yeah. We can go to that later on, yeah.
But
That's
people just do some research. It's not
sort of hard, you know.
We're not lying. It's like
the information's out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, when those BLM protests or marches, whatever you want to call happen, there were assaults. There were and I'm talking from the BLM side. There was that guy who got stabbed in one of the park. Remember, the guy stabbed him in the throat. I don't think the guy died, but he stabbed him in the throat. Stabbed the white guy in the throat. So you can't even say that there wasn't rioting and violence. There was loads.
I mean, they tore down how many statues? They graffitied how many? They looted stores.
Yeah, I mean, but then of course, obviously, when Tommy Robinson's mates came down to, right, we're not having this. And actually, you got to remember, right, and this is the thing, right, the police were very much focused on them, arresting them, pulling them in, getting them locked up, blah, 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 blah. But then when it came to the BLM guys,
nothing.
I mean, what was the story? Whatever happened to that
Starmer took the knee.
Did they ever find that kid who stabbed the white guy in the neck? Doubt it. Did he ever go to prison? Doubt it. Did they even bother looking for him? Doubt it.
Yeah, that's
and the thing
where
that concern you is that individual who's violent like that is out on the street.
Yeah. No, it is two-tier actually when you look at it like this, because as I said, like even during the BLM movement, for lack of a better word, Keir Starmer, obviously he was the leader of the opposition at the time, but he took the knee and he was in full support of it. And now we got riots on a...
I think that whole knee taking thing was a load of bullshit anyway. What people are going to say, well, it started a movement. Really? Okay, where's the movement now? I don't see it.
Nah, but he shouldn't have taken a knee for when, as we said, they were tearing down statues, they were rioting and looting stores. So when he's the leader of the opposition, he'll get on his knee and say, I support because it's seeking justice, okay. But now when you have the same thing going on again, this time with counter-protesters for a tragedy that's happened, he's now going to come out and be like, we're going to arrest you to the fullest extent of the law. That's two-tier policing. Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, all right, if you're going to hold people, if you're not going to hold people accountable for damaging statues and, monuments or whatever in London,
robbing stores
and doing all that shit, and then
violence.
But then when the flip side, the opposite of that argument, which is mainly white people, start doing the same with a mosque or something like that, where like how are you justifying that then?
Nah,
I'm not saying go out there and attack mosques.
Of course,
I don't agree with any of it.
Yeah,
I don't agree with any
of the violence.
I don't agree with anything. I don't agree with the BLM guys doing that with the statues and stuff. There's a way to go around there, go through, a petition or whatever it is, and have it pulled down, taken down if that's what you want. But to vandalize, which is a crime.
Yep.
No.
Well, that's the thing. It's a crime, and the police were just standing there watching it. Like, yeah, you guys take it down because apparently something happened 200 years ago that the history books that have been written by who knows have said.
Get over it, man.
It's ridiculous. It's really.
You don't think like I'm an Indian, right? British Indian, British-born Indian, right? You don't think Indians were slaves at one point to the British Empire? Guess what? We got over it and we moved on with our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get over it. I don't have to agree. Get over it. How long can you keep latching onto that?
Well, this is what they want, though, divide and conquer. That's one of the game plans.
But
it's just disgusting. I'm really anti-politics anyways.
Yeah. Well, we both are.
I saw it coming when the election was happening. And obviously in our previous episodes where we touched upon Rishi not wanting to be a wartime prime minister, i.e. the next prime minister will be a wartime prime minister. I just knew when the election happened
definitely seems like he's that.
He'd be willing to do it for the justice. Well, he is a WF puppet, isn't he? But when the election was happening and everybody was hyping up Labour's going to increase your wages and it's going to lower taxes and streets are going to get better and crime's going to go down, I just face palmed my head. I was like, I can't believe that people are actually falling for this. And look, not within a month, within 2 months.
So it's got even worse. It's escalated.
It's got worse. We've got riots on both sides, more division.
Taxes are going up. The energy allowance for old age pensioners, they've taken that away as well. So how the hell are they going to keep now those pensioners are back to, okay, do I eat or do I keep the house?
Heating, yeah. Fucked. And this NPR, yeah, this is why I get really frustrated, because I told them Labour's not going to fix the problems. If anything, it's going to get worse. No, you're wrong. You're racist. You're Nazi. You're right wing. Like, you conservative Tory. I'm not saying I support that either.
No, I said to him, I said to everyone getting about it. I got the same answer. I go, you know, I've never voted ever, right?
Yeah.
They're like, what? And I go, so you can't actually call me a right wing or anything. I've never voted because you lot don't understand how this really works. We're going to get to that later.
Yeah,
I don't want to get to.
But I disagree with what the riots are going on, and I think to an extent it is two-tier.
I think definitely. I think there's a fear of being labelled a racist and stuff like that, and all that sort of stuff, and they allow one side to get away with certain things, and the other side actually you just come down like a hammer on them. Their nails, in it, like a hammer on a nail, bang. You know, and. I think the other thing that I hate gets pushed is that racism can only be directed towards people of ethnic minorities. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, you can be racist to a white person as well. Yeah. So, I don't believe this in this whole nonsense. Like, oh no, it only applies the other one way. But if a black person says something that's could be deemed as racism to a white person, well, no, because they're white, so it's not racism.
That's how it is now.
But anyway, look, let's go to the next bit. We're going to play this Piers Morgan and Tate clip. I've kind of put together. Yeah, it was obviously it's a bit that I've taken.
Is it new? Recent?
About 4 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago.
Just under the time of all of this.
So, I mean, Piers and Tate were going back and forth with each other. As we all know, Tate is now a Muslim. We're not going to use his first name. I'm going to try and, because the algorithm on YouTube anyway will definitely give us some shit for this. We have a lot of problems with YouTube here on that One Random Podcast. But I'm going to play that clip, just let it run, and then we'll give our thoughts on the back of it, of who do you agree with and who you disagree, or do we disagree and agree with a bit of both of the points that have been made? Yeah.
All Keir Starmer has said, as far as I can see, is that he is going to bring the full force of the law against people who committed acts of violence. And the violence that was perpetrated
called them far right.
Yeah, well, there were far-right thugs who were leading this, and they were attacking mosques. They were chanting anti-Muslim chants, and they were doing this because
there was a black person in the crowd. Would you say
you've had your say? I'm going to have my say now. It was put out falsely on social media that the person who did this was a Muslim. Not just a Muslim, but a Muslim who came in on one of the small boats, part of the very contentious, ongoing issue of the small boat. I'm not saying you did. I'm saying this is what was put out on social media in a series of false posts, which then went viral, right? So he was supposedly a Muslim. Not true. Supposedly came in on a small boat. Not true. Supposedly on an MI6 watch list as a potential terrorist. Not true. None of this was true. And so on the back of that, far-right thugs who led this went up and attacked mosques, and they went and attacked hotels with asylum seekers in there waiting to be processed, and they was trying to set fire to them. Those are acts of despicable violence which were being led by far-right thugs. Now, not everybody involved in all these protests is a far-right thug. Some of them will be ordinary members of the public trying to legitimately protest peacefully. I completely accept it. But the ones who were leading it, who were committing the acts of violence and making the threats against the Muslim community, were doing so because they have been completely misled about who had done this. It was not a Muslim. It was not an illegal immigrant. It was not somebody on the MI6 watch list. It was none of those things. Now, you posted on July the 30th, the day after the killing, and I feel particularly incensed, by the way, that the deaths of these 3 young girls have been hijacked in such a reprehensible manner to attack Muslims when a Muslim had nothing to do with it, right? You put this on July the 30th, you posted a picture saying, this is the man from Cardiff. We're looking at this picture now. That murdered the little girl straight off a boat, you said. Really? He wasn't straight off a boat, because this wasn't the person who perpetrated the crimes. You got 4.3 million views for this. And a community notes clarified, this is not the man that attacked the children and adults in Southport. This image is of Kasonga Mabulu, who was arrested in Ireland in 2023 for a random knife attack at Dublin airport. So again, You know, 24 hours later, you're posting more.
Okay.
You're posting more. You're posting complete disinformation.
I'm sorry,
it's not okay.
Sir.
It's not okay.
Oh, no.
It
Piers,
was not the man.
Did I get the wrong stabber? Oh, I apologize.
Yeah, you did.
Piers Morgan, of
Yeah,
course.
you
I got
did.
the wrong stabber.
Yeah, you did.
And he certainly looked very Welsh to me. Let me make this clear. I'm a Muslim, and I think anybody who attacked a mosque is going to have to deal with God. I'm not worried about the full force of the law. They should worry about God itself. But I also want to make something very clear to all the people at home and clear to you that most of the white people are very frustrated and they're finding an enemy amongst themselves to take it out on. I think that the white people on these streets have a lot more in common with the brown people on these streets than they do with the politicians, because that's the problem we have here. Keir did not just only say they're going to face the full force of the law. He told everybody with a point of view, everybody who's concerned about the safety of their children, that they are extremists. And that is the most aggravating language you can possibly choose when people finally have had enough of not feeling safe on their own streets any longer. We have people who cannot afford to pay their bills watching migrants arrive who are now being held up in hotels at the taxpayers' expense for indefinite periods of time. We're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine. Nobody voted for it. Nobody wants it. And everybody's struggling to pay their bills. Energy prices are through the roof. Inflation is through the roof. Now they no longer feel safe on their streets. They don't want to put their daughters outside to play. The police won't protect them. The police won't turn up for most crimes unless it's something you say bad on Facebook. And when they look for a political solution, they're ignored. What kind of powder keg are we building here through incompetent leadership in the UK? This is nothing but a leadership failure. There's not a country in the world where leadership could fail this spectacularly and see any
Andrew,
different result.
All right. But once again,
I think the country's not safe as long as they're allowed to come into the country.
Fine. And is your position that somebody born in the United Kingdom is not British?
Now this, I'm going to have to give you a 30-second answer to, Piers, but this is going to be a very important conversation for decades to come, so please hear me out. The UK and the Western democracies are the only countries in the world where we will accept somebody born in the country, even if they have a different genetic lineage, are from that country. If you are born in China and you are not Chinese by appearance, they will never consider you Chinese.
But what do you think? What do you think?
Let me answer. But it's not about what I think, sir. Because there's a dichotomy inside of the Western democracies, and this is extremely clear. If you do believe that somebody born in the country, irregardless of their genetic lineage, is from that country, the only way you can have a society function in this manner is if all people are fairly politically represented and if there is no two-tier policing. If you're going to allow anybody to turn up to a country, be born, become from that country, get preferential treatment in the political system and the judicial system, you are going to have outrage and you are going to have riots. If we're going to accept, sir, that people who are born inside of the UK at any point are from there, and that is their country, then it's even more important that Keir Starmer represents everybody. He doesn't stand up and spit vitriol, which is going to engulf flames.
But to answer my question,
more important that we do not have two-tier policing like we've been witnessing.
Fine. I completely agree there should be no two-tier policing. Everyone should be exposed to the force of the law in exactly the same equitable manner. But just to be clear, do you personally, Andrew Tate, believe if you're born in the United Kingdom, you're British or not?
Personally, I don't think my personal views have anything to do with it, and I think they'll just distract from the point I made. The point I made is that
literally put your personal views out morning, noon, and night. So why are you dodging the question?
Because I don't think my personal views are that interesting. I think I could say my personal views, yes. I believe if you're born in the UK, that you're from the UK. However,
you do. Okay.
However,
fine. No, there's no however. You've answered the question. You believe they are British. So after that long speech, you agree with me. If you're born in the United Kingdom, you're British. Now, the other thing I want to get clarity on is this. This tweet from your friend Nick, as you call him, who's actually a white supremacist,
It doesn't matter what I
Nick
think,
Fuentes.
Piers. It matters what the people who are rioting are
thinking.
Fine,
you've made that point. I wanted to know what you think.
Fine.
Because
you're trying,
I just asked you what you thought.
Gotcha moment. You're trying to deflect.
It's not a gotcha moment. I'm asking you to be
that's
honest.
what I think. You're right.
Okay.
That's what I think. But the people who are rioting think otherwise.
So
and I'm trying to explain to you how they think. So we can give them a representation to prevent the riots happening again. I can understand other points of view where it seems you cannot.
You've answered the question.
Sure.
You've answered the question. Let me now answer this one simply. When you retweeted the white supremacist Nick Fuentes, who you call Nick, on the subject of the riots, and he said it's clear that not only are these protests being amplified and directed by Zionist plans, Robinson
you're
and
going to be the
others
person
spreading
who takes
complete
away
bullshit.
everybody's ability to express. You're going to take away everybody's ability to express their opinion. And let me tell you something. People who don't feel politically represented at least feel like they have freedom of speech online. If you take that away as well, you're going to get things are going to get a lot worse. It's going to be worse for the country. Pierce, you have to be careful sitting here on your show telling people that unless they said what you want them to say, they're not allowed to be on the internet. You are talking Stalinist.
When did I say that?
It's communist. It's dangerous.
When did I say that?
And that's exactly what you said.
When did I say that?
You said that anyone who says anything online is causing the riots themselves directly, and they're directly responsible. And there's no powder keg in the UK due to a failure of the policing and the judiciary and the politicians. And you're sitting here, and I'm telling you, Pierce, the things you're advocating for are going to cause more death and destruction than that vaccine you pushed or that country you support as they bomb little children. Pierce, be very careful what you say.
Yeah, listen, I'll take your lectures morning, noon and night. It makes no difference to me whatsoever. But would you like to take this opportunity finally to tell the rioters to stop rioting? Yes or no?
Absolutely. Well, considering I've been saying that for the last 4 days on Twitter and you didn't read any of the tweets out, they should be in front of you. There's at least 30. Let me make it clear to the people on both sides of the equation, all of my brothers in Islam and all of the Christians and native people of the UK who feel like they're underrepresented. You have more in common with the people you live amongst than you do with these political elites. The people you live amongst love their children and they're struggling to pay the bills exactly like you are. There's no reason for UK, one of the greatest countries in the world, one of the largest empires in history, to be plunged into poverty if it wasn't being looted by a political class that do not care about you. And the people who do not care about you, the number one thing they want is the different breeds or different types or different categories of poor people to fight so nobody looks up and sees who the real enemy is. Britain can be a rich country and it can be prosperous and it can be safe and it can be regulated and the police can respond and it can be as beautiful as a lot as the first world Islamic nations are. There's no reason why it has to be the way it is unless a political class was failing the people who they're supposed to represent for generations. And that's where this anger and hatred comes from. Not because a video was made on Twitter. That is so infantile and asinine to believe that some little video on Twitter started all of these things.
Here's what
that is what's happening. So stop rioting amongst each other and realize who the real enemy of your freedom is. When you understand the truth about this world, listen, I was born on a Luton council estate and now I have hundreds of millions of dollars. And let me promise you, it's never poor versus poor. It's rich versus poor. When a black billionaire and a white billionaire meet, there is no racism because they are billionaires. Racism is what they use to divide the poor people, to stop us realizing that they lie about every single thing on the news, that they inflate the currency constantly, they send our money away to wars we're not interested in, nobody can afford their bills, nobody can afford health care, and you're going to die alone in some nursing home because you can't afford a nice house because even then they're going to inheritance tax it. They don't want you realizing the truth, and that's why. But
you know what,
Andrew? To fight the poor people.
You know what, Andrew? I agree about the political class is failing people in Britain, as they have in many other countries. I agree with it completely. We need better politicians who have better solutions to big problems facing our country. But you are big on truth, and you abhor lies, and you hold them to account.
Cool. Your thoughts?
Whoa! Wow! Andrew Tate went hard. I think it's these kind of clips of him where you just can't deny that he is speaking facts. Obviously, him as a character and his brand, that's a whole other conversation, but based purely just on this interview that he's done with Piers Morgan.
And we know Tate's been arrested recently.
Yeah.
We're not going to go into it right now.
Yeah, taking out all the other controversies out of it and all his other brand and
just focus on the topic that he was discussing right now.
Just this video.
Was he right?
100%. 100%. And I think, Piers doing what he does of just being contradictory, but even then he does have to say, yeah, I agree. Andrew Tate laid it out for everybody. First and foremost, of course, stop the violence. I think that's the most important thing. We need to stop the violence. But he's speaking facts. It's never about poor versus poor, this whole racism, and it's just a divide and conquer plan set up by the elites and the rich.
We'll get into that a little bit because obviously our final, when we get into like what's the truth, we'll talk about it a little bit deeper. I don't want to start getting into that conversation.
Fair enough.
I kind of want to break down everything that's going on at the moment. And then we're going to go deep into that. We always do at the end. Yeah.
But okay, so back to the, what Tate was saying then about, or what Piers was highlighting that he said earlier about the whole, you got the wrong stabber. But it's undeniable though that there is an influx of illegal migration. Illegal meaning...
What's happening in Ireland now? We've seen what's going on in Ireland. It's like the same thing.
Same thing all over the place. But they are housing
Have you seen
them.
what they've done in Poland?
No, what they've done in
So
Poland.
the Poland Prime Minister or President, or whatever you call him, he's a mate. That guy, I just saw a clip of him. Yeah, I wish I downloaded it, but I didn't want to play it as well because the things he says.
It's a bit intense.
Yeah, it's quite intense. Like the ending part was quite intense. Yeah, and I could see
Is
that.
he taking a hard stance on it?
So basically, they got asked that question: is how come you don't have a migrant problem in Poland? And he goes, well, simple. He goes, we were influenced by and inspired by Trump. We built a wall on our borders. You can't get in.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can't sneak in. And then apparently a migrant who did get in killed a soldier or an police officer or something in Poland. And the laws then changed that you can now use guns. So when migrants try and come over the border, bang, you can kill them. Because it's illegal what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
So literally in Poland, they've got a stance. And if you do get in, you're going back. We don't care.
Yeah, I mean, look,
that's insane. That's
extreme.
It's extreme, bro. I would say that's extreme.
Yeah.
I say that's we can sit in as extreme, but that's the length that he's gone to protect his country and his people in his country from what's happening here and in America and in Ireland and other parts of the European countries.
Yeah, people are going to disagree with our take. I know some people that think open borders is the way forward, and we're being insensitive to the whole situation. However, there is UK border law policies. That's why when you come into the country, you have to scan your passport and, go to a border force agent and
that's why we've got passports. We should be able to get on a plane, pay for a ticket and go whenever you want, wherever you want.
But the situation is you can come to this country illegally, which, there's hundreds and hundreds of videos of dinghies coming across the waters into the UK, and they might get just dispersed into the local areas or come into London or whatever. They figure their way out. But the ones that do get picked up are treated not in the way that you would expect someone who's broken the law. Instead, as Tate highlighted, or what we've seen in the riot, is that they're getting housed in hotels. And this was going on during COVID, guys. Like if you remember during the 19 pandemic.
To be fair, like I saw Tommy Robson documentary, and we'll get to him in a minute as well. But he was showing how they're living, and they are in luxury 5-star
hotels, literally. And as I said, this all started during lockdowns. I'm not sure what words are going to get picked up here, but no, this is just a fact. This is all footage evidence. Like during the lockdowns when businesses were shut, they saw that as an opportunity, or maybe that was the game plan all along. But when you can't go out of your house, so no one's going to be in the hotels anymore, so let's go put all these migrants in hotels, all paid for, protected by security companies like G4S and Serco. So it's like we've got private policing going on out of a taxpayer's money to house and sustain illegal migrants. And this has been going on, we're 2024 now. This has been going on.
What do you think about this whole thing about
4 years, 5 years?
We touched on it, I think, before, but everyone keeps saying that they're fighting age men as well.
Look at the videos, guys. It's literally dinghy after dinghy of just men. And you might get one or two women,
yeah.
But you're literally looking at men, young, working age men. They're coming in, they've got their Android devices, they got their phones or whatever, and they're filming like, we just landed in the UK. And then, they just all disperse. And we could argue, like we spoke about in the beginning, we fear what we don't know. They're bringing in a different culture or a different way of living. But the truth is, it's not in line with the current values that we have in place in this country. And this is where the problems are coming, I
mean, people need to understand something, right? About this country, right? It is a white country, white Christian country. Whether you like to admit that or not, that's up to you. Yes, I was born here, right? Born Hindu, Punjabi. Okay, I am allowed to have my faith here. I'm allowed to express my faith here. I'm allowed to go to the mandir, if I want to. Not that I follow my religion. I do believe in God, but I don't really follow religion anymore. But I'm allowed to do all those things. I'm allowed to celebrate Diwali. Do you know what I mean? I'm allowed to wear my traditional dress if I want to, yeah. What I can't do though is start enforcing it and trying to push it on other people.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Forcibly, or starting to take certain traditions that might still, or it's not traditions, but things that happen from the culture of India with things that go on. And even in India, when you think about it, there's a lot, I mean, there's a lot of disrespect towards women in India, right? I mean, that country, there's a rape every 18 minutes. That's how bad it is. That's
I can imagine.
Yeah. I can't suddenly come here. Well, it's all right back in India, and it's part of my culture, so I'm allowed to. Yeah, this is the point that they're making, which is what you're going to about to say, which is this is the point, right? That they're coming over and they're saying, well, I can do it in my culture back home.
So why can't I do it here?
You need to. You're trying to say you respect.
Well, not even why can't I do it here? They just will do it here.
Yeah, and you have to respect the fact that that's just where I come from. That's how it is. But no, you're not. You're in England. You're in the UK. You're in Britain. It's different here.
It's different
here.
And
you
look,
need to adapt. You need to adapt to here.
It's a tolerant country. You can, we believe in the freedom. Like we are a respectful country.
Anyone who listens to this who says that it's not a tolerant country, then there wouldn't be mosques up, there wouldn't be synagogues up, there wouldn't be mandirs up, there wouldn't be gurdwaras up.
Of course.
Even Buddhist temples, there wouldn't be any of that. We wouldn't be allowed to do any of that sort of stuff. Do you know what I mean? So you can't say it's not a tolerant country.
Definitely is. But now we're coming to a point where it may be too tolerant. And if you maybe disagree with allowing that tolerance, you've now been labelled as a racist,
or a Nazi, or a bigot, or whatever.
A right-wing extremist.
Fascist, which I'm sure you and I, for what we just said, we'll probably get labelled.
We'll get labelled that. But the worst thing is, I think what Tate was highlighting is that our Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, who is supposed to be a man of the people, right? Firstly, you're the leader of the nation, but one, you're also supposed to be the left-wing party, the Labour government, man of the people, is isolating certain groups that are ultimately just caring about the safety of the population, safety of the children.
Alienating them is what you're doing. You're putting them into this corner, and it's the largest part of the population as well. And you're saying we don't care about you anymore. And what
That's
you want
crazy.
Is essentially what you're saying.
Obviously, if you look into it deeper, then we know who's actually pulling the strings of it all.
But let's have a look at this article. Obviously, that's been up on the screen for a second. And we'll go into a few more things as well, which obviously I've got some statistics and stuff I kind of want to read out, and then it'd be interesting to see your point of view about it. Yeah. Cool. It reads, horrific betrayal of 1,400 children. Asian gang appalling sex abuse of young girls lasted 16 years because people in authority were scared of being labelled racist if they tackled it. Your views?
Yeah. I mean, this is something that's, stuff like Tommy Robinson I came across before when he was trying to fight against the Asian grooming gangs and stuff. And it's going on all around the UK. And yeah, if you talk about it, you get labelled as a racist, right? Because obviously they're going to say, yeah, but there's also white people that are pedophiles and so on. But it doesn't deny the fact that this is a problem. And it's a problem that's being overlooked and not even discussed really within the media or within the mainstream conversations.
Yeah, because was it Romford?
It's all over the place, man.
There was two that were main ones though, which Tommy Robinson was highlighting. Was it Romford and I can't remember where they were now. But there was two main ones that he was highlighting, something like that. I can't remember where it was now. But look, end of the day, look. But on the back of this, it'd be interesting to talk about some statistics probably as well. Yeah, right. So if we look at UK population, so I used our old pal ChatGPT to help you out with this a little bit. So according to the most recent UK census data from 2021, the white population in the UK accounts for approximately 81.7% of the total population. The UK's total population is estimated to be around 67 million. So this would mean that there are roughly 54.8 million people in the UK who identify as white. Okay. According to the most recent data from the UK's Office of National Statistics, as of the 2021 census, approximately 4.2% of the UK's population identifies as Black, African, Caribbean or Black British. This translates to around 2.4 million people out of the UK population of approximately 67 million. As of the latest data from the 2021 census in the United Kingdom, the population identifying as Asian or Asian British is approximately 9.3% of the total population. This includes groups such as Indian, Pakistani, Bangladesh, Chinese, and other Asian ethnicities. Given the total UK population is around 67 million, this percentage translates to roughly 6.2 million people identify as Asian or British Asian or Asian British. As of 2023, the UK had approximately 4.9 million Muslims, making up about 6.5% of the total population. Among these Muslims, a significant portion are migrants. According to the data, around 1.8 million Muslims in the UK were born outside of the country. This means that approximately 37% of Muslims in the UK are migrants. Which thoughts on that?
It's quite high, actually.
That's pretty high. When you think about how small, it's quite overrepresented then, the migrants within that, when you think about it.
Yeah.
Massively, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Next stat we're going to go into on is probably about prisons. Anything else you want to talk about there, which I gave you? It was basically just breaking down the population, really. I mean, I
think when you look at the UK, it's because from London, obviously, it's a big majority and it's such a melting pot of culture.
I think it's like I think here in London, 51%. You probably have to check this, check it yourself. I think 51% of the population in London are white, or the other way around.
Yeah. But that's about fair, isn't it? About 50-50.
But look at while I talk over the prison stats, yeah?
Yeah.
All right. So as of the most recent data available, the total prison population in the United Kingdom is around 83,000 individuals. Of this population, approximately 95% are male. Therefore, the number of males incarcerated in UK prisons are around 78,850. Cool. According to the most recent data, about 73% of the male prison population in the UK are white males. Given the estimate of approximately 78,850 males in prison, this means around 57,561 of them are white males. Approximately 13% of the male prison population in the UK are black males. Given the estimate of 78,000 number I just gave you, males in prison, around 10,250 of them would be black males. Approximately 8% of the male prison population in the UK are Asian males. Around 6,308 of them would be Asian males, basically, if you did it by numbers, yeah? Muslims make up about 16% of the prison population in the UK. Given the estimate of 78,850 males in prison, approximately 12,616 of them would be Muslim males. It doesn't say if they're black, brown, or white, or whatever, because you do get white Muslims as well. As of 2024, there are 121 prisons in England and Wales, 15 in Scotland, and 3 in Northern Ireland, making a total of 139 adult prisons across the United Kingdom. This number includes both public and private facilities that house adult males and female prisoners. Your thoughts? Any thoughts on that?
It's about right.
Yeah. It's in line with the population when you think about it, right? In terms of like demographically, you're going to get that kind of larger numbers of white prisoners, right? Sex offenders.
Well, that's the thing I was going to think about, like, is what kind of crimes are we talking about?
So let's get to sex offenders, yeah? So this is a hard one because
that data is not really public.
Yeah, they don't make the data public about colour, race, religion. So ChatGPT is trying to find as much as it possibly could and break it down as best as I could, because I said, ChatGPT, break this down for me. And then it said, this is what it gave me anyway, right? So as of the most recent data, around 20% of the male prison population in the UK are classified as sex offenders. This percentage represents those convicted of sexual offences, including a wide range of crimes such as rape, sexual assault, and possession or distribution of indecent images of children. Yeah. The exact number can vary slightly depending on the year and the source of the statistics, but it generally hovers around this percentage. The total male prison population in the UK is approximately 70,000. We know it's a little bit higher than that, which means there are about 14,000 male prisoners who are sex offenders. You know, it's a lot, man.
Yeah.
The breakdown of sexual offenders in the UK prison by race and religion is not always straightforward, as specific and detailed data on these aspects is not consistently published. However, I can provide some general information based on available sources and trends. So ChatGPT telling me he can give me some sort of information. There we go. So race, the UK prison system in general provides data on ethnicity and prisoners, which can give an indication of the racial breakdown among sex offenders. White. The majority of sex offenders in the UK prisons are white, reflecting the broader demographic makeup of the prison population. Historically, around 70 to 75% of all prisoners in the UK are white. Black prisoners are overrepresented in the UK prison system relative to their population size, comprising around 10 to 12% of the total prison population. However, they are slightly less represented among sex offenders compared to the proportion in other offence categories. So,
such as, does it say what?
No, it doesn't. But
like
it's probably about violent crimes, stabbing, drug dealing, all that sort of stuff. So it's talking about that sort of stuff. But it wasn't specific to what other crimes.
Yeah.
But it's definitely they're not as high as the other groups. Asian prisons count for about 7 to 8% of the prison population. They are also slightly underrepresented among sex offenders relative to other crimes. Mixed and other, these categories together make up a smaller portion of the prison population, usually around 4 to 5%. Your thoughts so far?
Yeah, so it's saying underrepresented. Okay.
Which I would have, I'm trying to, even I read that, I was like, what do you mean underrepresented?
Yeah. So there's less.
But I could understand that, probably, if I think about it now, right? Remember we talked about this a while ago, and I said there's so many taboos in the Asian culture.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of young girls, women, etc., who are sexually abused, even underage, even by family members and stuff like that. I've heard all the stories. It goes on deep, but never ever report it. So maybe that's why, because they never end up going to prison because it's never reported. You know, a girl gets molested by her uncle or whatever, or the next door neighbour or whatever, and they're like, shh, because immediately the community starts looking, well, what did she do?
Yeah.
You know, that culture.
Yeah.
Of she's a slut, basically. Which is wrong, obviously, but it can be that it's silent, it's swept under the rug. So maybe that's why they're underrepresented in a sense, but they know that a lot of it goes on within the community.
Yeah, that's what I would have.
That's how I would have taken that. Religions. Similarly, the detailed breakdowns of sex offenders by region are not always available, but general trends can be observed based on overall prison statistics. Christianity. The majority of prisoners identify as Christian, reflecting the general population trend in the UK. This group makes up a significant portion of sex offenders as well, given their overall numbers in the prison system. Islam. Muslims are notably overrepresented.
Really?
In the UK prisons, compared to their percentage of the general population, making up about 15% of the total prison population. However, they are often underrepresented among sex offenders compared to other crime categories. That's an interesting one.
So what kind of crimes are...
Just do any other crime. It's saying any other crime. So anything outside of sex offence, they're underrepresented.
Okay.
Again, is that because of taboo within the community? Or is it as...
So they're overrepresented in the prison.
We don't have to call them the right. I'm not saying they are the right.
Yeah.
But the right of the argument are stating that nothing happens with these guys. They get off scot-free.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one. Other religions, these include Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jews, and others, each of whom make up a small percentage of the prison population with varied representations among sex offenders. Okay, so not much. No religion. A significant proportion of prisoners identify as having no religion, and this group is also well represented among sex offenders. Limitations. It's important to note that these figures are general estimates and specific data may vary. Also, the underrepresentation or overrepresentation of certain groups in particular crime categories can be influenced by a variety of factors, including reporting practices, sentencing, and obviously social factors. For the most precise and up-to-date information, official reports from the Ministry of Justice or other relevant bodies would be required, though these may not always break down data specifically for sex offenders by race or religion. Does that really tell us much? Do you think?
Well, as we said, the
because the reason I brought that up because there's loads of people pull out these facts and these stats, and Tommy Robinson does it as well. And I was just like, well, where are you getting it from?
That's true.
Where are these numbers coming from? Because you're getting access to these numbers. So how is it I can't go in there and dig it out?
Yeah.
And it doesn't break it down according to. So how are you populating those numbers? You know, there's more information I've got here as well. We can go into benefits as well if you want.
The benefit ones is a madness.
You want to go into it?
Yeah, go on, because that's quite actually.
As of most recent data, it is estimated that a significant proportion of benefit claimants in the UK are white. According to the Department of Work and Pension Statistics, around 80 to 85% of benefit claimants in the UK are white, reflecting the demographic makeup of the country where a majority of the population is white. This percentage includes various benefits such as universal credit, job seekers allowance, employment and support allowance, housing benefits, and others. However, it is important to note that the exact number of white benefit claimants fluctuates based on the specific type of benefit and other factors like economic conditions and changes in government policy. For precise and up-to-date numbers, checking the latest DWP or Office of National Statistics reports would be necessary. For ethnic minorities, including migrants, the portion of benefit claimants in the UK is lower compared to the white population, primarily due to their smaller share of the overall population.
Okay, but as a percent, does it go into?
No.
Okay.
Here's a general breakdown based on statistics. Ethnic minorities, which include groups such as Black, Asian, mixed, and other ethnic groups, make up about 15 to 20% of benefit claimants. This is reflective of their overall population proportion in the UK, which is roughly similar. Migrants, specifically non-UK nationals, tend to have a lower rate of benefit claims due to various restrictions and eligibility criteria. However, some migrants who have obtained permanent residency or are from the European Economic Area are eligible for certain benefits. Black and minority ethnic groups, and they put BAME, I hate that term, they account for around 15 to 20% of benefit claimants, which aligns with the demographic presence in the UK. Within this group, certain communities might have higher or lower claim rates depending on factors like employment rates and socio-economic conditions. Migrants, non-UK nationals make up a smaller proportion of benefit claimants. This group often faces restrictions depending on their immigration status. Migrants who are eligible for benefits, including those with a settled status, refugee status, and EU nationals with pre-settled or settled status. It is important to note that these figures can vary slightly depending on the type of benefits and the specific ethnic group. Additionally, data on migrant benefit claims is often more complex due to the variety of immigration statuses that affects eligibility. For the most detailed and accurate figures, as you can say, go to national statistics and all that sort of stuff again.
I don't know. I guess it makes sense that the majority would be in line with the population.
This is my point. This is my point with this, right? Okay, where they're saying, oh, they're taking all the benefits, taking all the jobs, they're getting all this, they're getting all that. Okay, but yet you are the largest demographic in this country. That can't be possible.
Yeah, but then
that all those millions are going to just one small group.
But there is millions going into that group.
Yeah, but you can't say it's all going into that group.
No, of course not. But I know someone who works at DWP and specifically in the benefits department, and he's on the phone with a person trying to claim benefit or going to receive benefits because they're going to give it, right? Can't speak English, 6 kids, is now in this country asking for benefits.
Mm.
And obviously because of the number of kids, they get a bigger proportion, right? What's your take on those kind of situations that are actually more common than we're told?
Oh, is that true?
Yeah.
Because I remember that. I'm not saying that. Wow, is that still? I should say, wow, is that still true? Because I know that was the case back in the day, right? But then my mate who's worked in housing and stuff like that from donkey's years has turned around and said, he goes, it's like, you know, you get like Somalians come over and they have like massive families with 5-6 kids, and they get benefit claims for each child, right? He was like, no, he said, I remember him saying years ago, unless they've changed this, but I remember him saying years ago, he said they've stopped that now. You can only claim for 2 kids. If you've got 5 or 6 kids and you keep having kids and keep claiming benefits, we're not going to keep giving you money, because you're now deliberately having more kids, so you make more money, get more money, right?
I'll quote it: 7 kids can't speak a word of English and getting money from Universal Credit, and
fuck.
And apparently the partner is a director of his own company, but 7 kids. Yeah.
Should go to housing.
Yeah.
Because that's another big one, isn't it?
And but this is the thing though, so obviously we as taxpayers are, you could argue, okay, we know it's the right thing to help people. And obviously, as you already explained, that the split isn't actually, like, the majority of benefits is going to white people, for lack of better words to use. But then you do have cases where somebody who doesn't speak a word of English and got 7 kids is going to be put in a mansion because it's the only way that we can house them, and that's out of your taxpayers' money. And the person who works at DWP, uni graduate, half his wages are going on to rent. He can't get any benefits because he's educated and working. He's having a decision now to move out of the country because he can't really afford to live in this country at the moment. He can't afford to live in the country, but his job role is literally giving money to people who can't even speak a word of English. I'm not saying that that's right or wrong, because obviously that's a whole nother, but what's your take on that?
Yeah, well, I've always said that for years though. I've said that, like, if I get sick, right, I'm a form of cancer victim, you know that, right? We talked about this before. Now, let's say I for those who haven't heard my story, I had testicular cancer about 10 years ago, lost both my testicles, right? Now, let's say the cancer spread to other parts of my body and now I need therapy, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. My work is only going to pay me a certain amount of sick pay in terms of company sick pay, roughly about probably 12 weeks max. After that, I'm on, statutory sick pay, which is like £90 every 2 weeks or something like that, £85, £90 every 2 weeks. If I went to the local council and say, look, I'm broke, I've run out of company sick pay, they won't give me any more, I'm getting statutory sick pay, which is like £90, I can't pay the rent, I can't pay the I need a bit of help temporarily, just to pay my rent, be able to feed myself and be able to concentrate on getting well. I guarantee you they'll say no. Because I know a woman who works with me, who has had cancer, who had to go through the treatment like that, and went to go and get help, and they said no to her. And I don't agree with that.
I don't agree with that either.
Like, I've worked my whole life.
Yeah.
You're telling me I'm not entitled to my taxpayers' money.
Exactly.
Because the money I'm asking for isn't money, your money. It's actually my money. A percentage of that is my money that's funding that.
To the tax, yeah.
So give it back to me because I need it now.
Yeah. But the situation is as you say, look, when someone who actually needs it, most of the time, especially if you worked here your whole life, aren't going to get that support. But someone who has come across or has come over here, because we are a tolerant country and we do want to help, but then there's a little bit of an abuse of the system.
A little bit.
I don't want to get cancelled in it.
No, there's abuse, but that's not just migrants. Like, even white Brits abuse it.
Abuse it, of course.
I've seen some documentaries of them. They can go get a job, but they don't. They just live on benefits.
But then why have a lot of those, especially a lot of the deprived areas in the UK? How did it get so deprived? Like, I was up in Blackpool one time last year, and
mate, it's a shithole.
It's a shithole.
But it's not what I remember as a kid.
But this is what I'm trying to say. Like, there are still pictures
and rides and candy floss
and it was
hot dogs and
a popping
ice
economy.
cream and Pebble Beach, and you walk, sit down and chill out and watch the sea.
It was apparently the best. But now it's run down and it's terrible.
It's a
and
shithole.
it's a shithole.
It's a drug haven now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But that's common across the whole of the UK at the moment.
Because there's no investment in the industry of tourism in that part. It's died.
Yeah.
People would rather go fly abroad.
Yeah, that's true. Cheap
and people want to go to Dubai and all this sort of stuff. And when I was a kid, you know, even just going to spend a day in Blackpool or Brighton was you get all excited. It's like a holiday for a day.
Yeah.
And you go and enjoy yourself and you just take your kids and it's all nice, wholesome, all colours, all races, everyone's there enjoying themselves, having fun, you know. And once that times have changed now, where we live in an era now where we don't treasure things like that anymore.
I mean, you can get a £30 flight to Spain, innit?
People don't want to do that anymore. People would rather go to another country.
Yeah.
And
it's probably cheaper though.
Spend the money. I don't think that's the reason for Blackpool. I think people have changed.
People have changed, yeah.
I think the new generation is different. Yeah, our old generation was different. Like, hey, we don't need to go. Or even go to, like, even the old generation, you probably go somewhere like Isle of Wight, or you go to Scotland. You don't think like that. Everyone now, all these youngsters want to go, hey, I want to go to Dubai. I want to do this. I want to do my Instagram. Because Blackpool doesn't present a good Instagram shot. And I want to show the world that I'm living this fake life. I'm living my best life. But it's actually, yeah. Do you get what I mean? That's how it is now. So there's not enough investment in it, and they've just let it fall apart. Instead of actually promoting it and trying to get people to, they've just let it die. And now it's died. And it's like coal mining or steelworks here in this country. It's cheaper to do it abroad. Once you shut it all down, then you look at places like, where is it? Is it Stoke? I think it's Stoke.
All over the place, man.
Which had a good strop back in the 60s, 70s. Used to do steel mining, and it was like Sheffield. That's it, not Stoke. Sheffield. And Sheffield was booming. But I remember seeing an old video, talk about how booming the fashion and all that, and because of steel. And then once the steel went, now it's a shell.
Pretty much everywhere. In
so if the investment's not there anymore, then they're going to fall apart.
Yeah, and then people go on benefits.
Exactly, but then at the same time there is abuse of it where people they can get a job, and this is that British arrogance. Well, why should I have to go clean a toilet?
Yeah, I guess that's
I'm a white Brit. That's not my job.
Yeah, that's another thing.
That's the brownie and blackie job. Go give it to them, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So there's that element as well. Whereas a brown person, a black person, like, I need a job. Fuck yeah, I'm gonna clean this toilet. I'm gonna go clean this toilet.
Yeah,
I'm out of work. Yeah. Whereas though it's true, white Brits will say no. That's beneath me, you know.
Yeah.
And there's your problem, innit?
As well, for sure.
Yeah. But anyway, let's go into housing a little bit. Yeah. So the percentage of, I just want to say something. I remember years, I don't know, it was 10, 15 years ago, about 15 years ago, my mate said, who works in the housing industry and stuff like that, he said that migrants only take up 5%. Back then, migrants only take up 5% of social housing. Because even back then, there was like, they're taking all the houses, all the council properties, and actually, he was like, it's bullshit, man. I was like, really? He goes, yeah, he goes, bullshit. Because only 5%. I was like, all right. But anyway, let's see if that's changed. How much that changed? I'm sure it has, after so many years. The percentage of social housing in the UK occupied by migrants is a topic of considerable debate, and the exact figure can vary depending on the definition of migrants and the data source used. However, available data from various studies and government reports suggest the following. According to a 2020 report from the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, around 10% of social housing in England is occupied by non-UK nationals. This includes both EU and non-EU nationals. A separate analysis by the Migration Observatory and University of Oxford, based on the English housing surveys, indicate that about 20% of social housing is occupied by households with at least one member who was born abroad. These figures suggest that migrants occupy somewhere between 10% and 20% of social housing in the UK, depending on the specific definition and data used. It's also important to note that these numbers can vary regionally, with high percentages in urban areas like London. In the UK, social housing occupancy by British-born white people has seen a significant change over the years due to the various socio-economic Factors as of recent data, approximately 41% of social housing tenants are British-born white people. The figure reflects the broader demographic shifts in the UK population and housing policies, which social housing being occupied by a more diverse range of ethnic groups over time. Social housing in the UK is intended to provide affordable housing options to those in need, regardless of ethnicity. So, the demographics of social housing tenants can vary widely across the different regions. It's worth noting that these figures are approximate and can be changed based on new census data and housing policies. For British-born Asians in the UK, approximately 10% of social housing tenants fall into this category. This reflects the presence of British-born Asians within the social housing sector, though the percentage is lower compared to the British-born white people. The occupancy of social housing by British-born Asians, like other ethnic groups, varies across different regions in the UK and is influenced by factors such as social economic status, housing needs, and regional population distribution. Approximately 10% of social housing tenants in the UK are British-born black people. The percentage reflects the representation of British-born black people within the social housing sector, which is comparable to that of British-born Asians. Like other ethnic groups, the occupancy rates of social housings by British-born black people can vary depending on the factors such as demographic location, availability of housing, and socio-economic circumstances. Which thoughts?
Yeah, it's a lot of statistics there.
So we can say that though, like, I mean, they're saying 10 to 20% by migrants. But then remember, some of those, that's half of that 20% potentially is because you live in your house, everyone's British born, and then there's one family member living in there who is a migrant as well.
Right, so that contributes to that.
So at the moment, so if I read it, from what my mate told me a few years ago, that 5% goes to migrants for social housing, it's now 10%. With a further 10%, which might be the case of that you and I might have a family home, we might be living in social housing with a family and everyone's British born bar one person. I've got an uncle living with me who's from India.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. So it might...
to be fair, it's not actually that high.
It's not that crazy.
No, I thought it was... I'm not going to lie. I had a preconceived judgment that it was going to be a lot higher.
And my mate works in housing, so obviously he knows statistics and stuff like that. So if he told me 10, 15 years ago, he was telling me it was 5% and now it's 10%. It hasn't seen a massive jump either. And I can't take much, like, how do you that additional 10% they're throwing on top is basically you may have a relative living with you who's a migrant, or you have a relative living with you who's a migrant, which that person's name might not even be on the lease.
Yeah.
So really, I can't really count that either. But it's not as where you hear the right, we'll call them the right, we're not trying to be biased or label it, but we've got to differentiate between the two, so we're going to call it left and right. But the right, who are claiming, they're taking all our housing, and well, actually they're not. It's increased by 5%. Most of it's still sitting with you, British white people.
But they are, especially the illegals, staying in hotels.
True.
That's mad.
True. But it'd be interesting, they're talking about, but when you hear the argument, it's a lot about social housing. And social housing, the council properties are being taken up by migrants. Well, clearly they're not.
So what's the housing situation then? Because I know a lot of people who say have gone to university, got a job, but they won't ever get a housing situation in the near future, at least, unless you manage to save like 20, 30 grand for a deposit. But you could...
Remember, 51% of the land in this country is privately owned by the rich elites.
Right. Yeah, so
at least 49%. Remember, most of that land is used either for like agriculture and stuff like that. They don't build on it, because they make money off of it, and then some of it's just untouched. Now you look at, but that's their private land. They're the rich elite. They get to do what they want. So the government's probably not including that in. I'm making assumptions. I don't know if this is a fact. I'm just using my own logic here. That leaves 49% to us, the little people. Right, the commoners. And then there's a certain amount of that needs to be greenery as well, that you can't build on because you need, naturally, You need an environment, you need nature, right? You don't want to destroy it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we end up living in a world like freaking Blade Runner, right? Just building upon buildings, right? So how much land is there left to build on? Yes, we've got a lot of free open land, but how much of it is really we can actually build on? Not a lot when you think about it. Maybe 20%, maybe even more, 30% of that 49% is probably greenery we've got to keep green.
Yeah, I've got the green belt.
And keep the nature going. I don't think anyone wants to destroy nature. Let's be real. Right, so how much is left?
But then do we also have a problem that the housing that they do build is just too expensive? And then they sell it to overseas investors.
True. But
And
then
so
because
a lot of the properties in London alone are unoccupied.
But the thing is if no one can afford to buy it, they're going to sell it overseas, aren't they?
But why can't people afford to buy it? Because they've put the prices so high on it.
Is it because you got the mortgage is too much? I don't know. I rent. Yeah, I've always rented.
Like what a one bedroom flat is like 350 grand in London. That's a bit much, isn't it? You can get like a 4-bedroom house in Kent for that price.
Is that all because of inflation, cost of the material, how much it costs now to bring in material into the country? Like you think about it, you look at retailers. Retailers are still right now. They still have cargo sitting on the dock of the point of whatever you call it, the port of exit, which means at the other wherever you're importing it from. And now it's got to take a long ass route to get around to come to here to the UK. So naturally the prices go whoop through the roof. So I'm guessing it's the same with materials as well, because we import everything. We don't export anything. We import everything. We don't sell anything to the rest of the world. What do we offer? So naturally, everything, cement, blah, 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 this, that all comes in from another country, I'm guessing.
Yeah, but prices are still a bit too high, innit? It's not reasonable.
And then they got to make a profit on top of that.
That's what it comes down to.
And then they've probably got independent investors, even small investors, who put in 250k or something like into the building of those properties, and they want their cut.
Yeah.
Plus, if you're the one running the company, you want your cut as well.
For sure.
So, but the housing crisis like that is nothing new. That's been going on for like 20 damn near 20 years now.
Yeah, that's true.
Where generations can't get a house.
Yeah.
You know, and people are just buying out of desperation. They'll buy anywhere as long as they can get it and get on the market. Don't know if that's the smartest choice, but yeah, look, it is what it is. But I think we clearly identified that there's some real misconceptions of prison, even sex offenders in this country, but benefit claimants, even housing. I think we've kind of probably exposed a lot of bullshit. But I suppose when you really want to push an agenda, you're going to lie a little bit.
Just inflates, isn't it? I didn't know that. I thought it was a bit more of an issue than.
Yeah, but that's why when they were saying housing, I was like, that's why I looked into it. I thought, hold on, like, I know 10, 15 years ago, it's only 5% went to the migrants. My mate told me that. And then when we look into it now, I go, it's only increased by 10%. Oh, sorry, by 5%. It's actually only at 10%, really. So the other 90% goes to Brits, essentially is what they're telling you. You know, and majority of that are white Brits. So no, they're not taking your house.
Yeah.
It might feel like that in London.
Yeah, so London is 50%.
And that's the thing they were saying. The demographic of London is 50-50 near enough.
50-50 near enough, yeah.
And now, yes, they are probably prioritising in places like London, Birmingham, places like that, you know, Leicester, Bradford, places like that where it's a high Asian ethnic minority population in one city, and they're getting preferences. The migrants are probably getting preferences in those, because that's where they go. I want to live there because my uncle, I want to live somewhere where
bit more
I feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
I don't want to live in a white area, and they do stick them within their own communities, and they say, "Okay, here's your house." So in those communities, if you're white, you're probably thinking, they're taking everything, and it looks and feels like that, but in actual reality, when you look at the broad scope of the whole country, that's not the case.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's move on to the next bit, because I want to talk about this Church of England scandal.
What's this about?
Which I feel like has been swept under the rug, and I've never heard any white person, especially recently with all the things that are going on, addressing it. I've not heard the media address it, and definitely old pal Tommy Robson I've never ever heard him address it.
Right.
Yeah. So let's get into that. Let's bring up the article. So this is the article. Church of England forgave paedophiles and allowed them to continue working with children, inquiry finds, right? So there's a video on this Independent article by the Independent, all right? And I believe this was 2020, basically, yeah? All right. I'm going to play the video clip of that I've screen recorded on this as well, and then read the article to you, yeah? So let's go for that first.
He talked about George Carey and Peter Ball, where the panel's words were he supported him because he just wanted it to go away. Those are quite damning words, aren't they? That he supported a convicted perpetrator even after he'd been convicted, and allowed him to officiate still. So I think that's the best example, because it was a bishop being supported by the head of the Church of England even after that bishop had been convicted for child sexual abuse, and still allowed, in limited circumstances admittedly, but still allowed to officiate. I think all organisations take their lead from the top. So I think if you hear the Archbishop strongly supporting somebody who's been convicted of child sexual abuse, then it's likely that others will take the same stance.
So I'm going to read the article now, yeah? The Church of England forgave paedophiles after they expressed remorse and allowed them to carry on working instead of protecting children, a report has found. The independent inquiry into child sex abuse said that between the 1940s and 2018, 390 clergy members or people in positions of trust were convicted of child sex offences. The culture of the Church of England facilitated it becoming a place where abusers could hide, said the report released on Tuesday. To authorities of the church and to individual priests, a taboo surrounding discussions of sexuality and an environment where alleged perpetrators were treated more supportively than the victims presented barriers to disclose that many victims could not overcome. The IICSA said that many members of the church regard forgiveness as the appropriate response to any admission of wrongdoing.
What's the IICSA?
This independent inquiry into child sex.
Oh, okay.
That stated before. So this is the people that did the inquiry investigation. Yeah. Right. The report cited that the case of Timothy Story, who was permitted to continue working with children after expressing remorse for everything he had done wrong. He is currently serving 15 years in prison for several offences against children, including rape. Some religious leaders use forgiveness to justify a failure to respond appropriately to the allegations, the report said. Perpetrators who repent must be willing to face the legal consequences of their sin and should be prevented from accessing environments in which reoffending could occur. Evidence given to the inquiry suggested that some victims may have been pressured by church workers to forgive their abusers, causing further harm and potentially bringing them back into contact with the person. So imagine that you got sexually abused and then they bring them back and that kid has to see that person again.
It's wild.
They may condemn themselves and believe they are condemned by others if they are not willing to or able to forgive, the report said. It also raised concerns about the seal of the confessional, which creates a duty of absolute confidentiality on the information disclosed. The diocese safeguarding advisors said it was rare for someone to admit child sex abuse during confession, but savior groups allege the numerous allegations have not been passed to authorities. So that means there's been cases of people actually confessing to it in the confessional box, and they've not, or confessing it to a priest, and it's not being reported. IICSA found that were formally complaints were made, alleged perpetrators were given more support by the Church of England than their victims, compounding their trauma. Story received ongoing care and supervision from the church throughout 2 court cases, the report said, while some of his victims did not feel they were believed and felt on their own with no support. Felt on their own without any support. Allegations of him abusing girls as young as 13. he met through the church dating back to 2007, when he was employed as a youth worker in the Diocese of London and for missionary organisations. In 2009, he admitted to a senior vicar that he had sex with a 16-year-old girl whom he met through a residential Christian event, but the vicar told others that he was basically a good man who could be an effective priest.
What priest?
An effective priest.
Effective, I thought infected.
And I was like, I had to stop there because the way he just said that, I was like, what?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like
I
can't, like, do you know what I mean? After Story was convicted of unrelated grooming offences in 2014, several other victims came forward, and in 2016 he was jailed for 3 counts of rape and another sexual assault against girls he met through the Diocese of London. IICSA's report cited other cases where the church response was entirely inappropriate. It said that after Reverend Ian Hughes was convicted in 2014 for downloading 8,000 indecent images of children, including 800 in the most serious category.
Oh, shit.
Bishop Peter Forrester suggested he had been misled into viewing child pornography. I don't know how that works, but okay. In the inquiry found the public support had been given to some offending clergymen, including former Bishop Peter Ball, who manipulated young men of his own age, of his own sexual gratification, and in 2015. Okay. Lord George Carey, the former Archbishop of Canterbury, simply could not believe the allegations against Ball and was outspoken in his support for the bishop, the report said. It cited tribalism as a key issue of concern in the Church of England, creating disproportionate loyalty and overrode child protection. Perpetrators were defended by their peers, who also sought to reintegrate them into church life without consideration of the welfare or protection of children and vulnerable adults, IICSA said. Other concerns highlighted where the power vested in the clergy and a culture of deference and lack of accountability to independent agencies. The inquiry warned that naivety among parishes, I think that's the word, that the clergy moral code made sexual abuse unlikely or impossible, meaning reports were dismissed without investigation. Like, I could read on, man. This is like a massive article. But you get
crazy.
You get the gist of it, right?
I mean, I always knew that the churches in all, obviously this is Church of England, but even within the Catholic Church, that their pedophile rings are massive and extensive. However, to reintegrate them back into the clergy is that's a bit stupid, isn't it?
You're basically saying, and this is the bit I don't like. You're saying, Christianity is about a religion of forgiveness, and we forgive and we allow them to redeem themselves. But there's got to be in certain circumstances, you've got to be like, no, like, sorry, dude, I forgive you. Yeah, I forgive you, but you ain't working back here.
That's the problem. Okay, I get it. Yeah, you can forgive.
Forgiveness doesn't mean you give the job back.
That's that's the crazy bit. Like, even when they were talking about, it was like in the confessional booth. I get that. They have a moral duty to not expose that, because that's the whole point of the confession. It's purely confidential. I get that. But then if you know that somebody was within your staff to be convicted for child and then to get reintegrated back into the same job, that's stupid, isn't it?
But this is the point I want to talk about, right? It's all sick what we just heard. I could have carried on reading it, yeah? And I was starting through that because the things I was reading, I was like, yo, this is like just disgusting, right? But at the same time, going back to the original point I was trying to make is, not one of those white people on the other side of the argument, right, who were involved in the riots and calling out, Muslims this, Muslim that, grooming gangs and, two-tier policing. None of them speak about this. Tommy Robson, I've never heard him speak about this. And that's where now I feel like there's the hypocrisy. There's the double standard. You're talking about double standards yourself and accusing Keir Starmer, right? We've already gone over those bits, that there's a double standard and there's two-tier policing going on, but at the same time, you yourself are not. Why is Tommy Robson not at the door of the Church of England saying these guys need to be held to account? And the other thing, he likes to label these gangs, the Asian grooming gangs, as Muslim grooming gangs because they're predominantly Muslim. Mainly, they're saying that they're Pakistani men. Yeah. So, do you then label the Church of England as a Christian grooming gang?
I guess you would have to, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but where's Tommy Robson? And this is where I feel like with him, I've listened to a lot of things he said, right? Especially when we had that, remember, right when we started our first podcast, right, episode. And we were talking about Tommy Robson offline, and I was like, yo, man, that guy's a racist already. And you're like, what makes him a racist? Or you obviously had heard more from him. I didn't pay attention to him too much, because you know why? I grew up in the time of the NF. And when he started the EDL, right, I was like, it's another NF group. They'll fade away in a half. They're no longer around anymore, idiot, right? They don't exist anymore as a group. And I was like, they're going to fade away like the NF. It always happens. Yeah, there was always a new group that comes around. Yeah, and they always disappear eventually after a while, right? So I didn't pay much attention to him. And then when you said that, I thought, you know what, let me look into this guy. And I started looking into him, like, oh, okay, interesting points. He's making some interesting points, but how, like, is this from one side? And let me look at other things as well. And then when I look at things like this, yeah, you've not mentioned one. When I've watched enough of his podcast episodes that he's been on and interviews he's given, he never mentions this. Why? You're someone who's so clued up with what's going on with the country and stats, facts, and who's the higher, which ethnic minority or ethnic group is, you know, committing the most amount of sexual offences against children and underage and women and all that stuff. You'd think he would know about this.
But then could you argue that, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here,
go for it.
Could you argue that the Church of England is inherent within the UK already? So for example, if you were to say rape is very common in India amongst Indians, but if now a Polish demographic turned up to India, you know, still a minority as we've discussed with the statistics, but let's say a group of Polish people went to India and started raping people, should an Indian then come out and say, yeah, these Polish gangs are wrong, but obviously still address the Indians? Or should he, you know, is the focus now just that the fact that there's a Polish influx?
I feel like I get where you're coming from.
Because that's the way he's looking at it as well in terms of...
I see that as well, but you got to understand, it's rife within your society. That's my point, yeah? And you're not tackling all aspects of it. You're taking a certain demographic, who I'm not denying it doesn't have, because we've got the reports, they're being arrested, those Asian men, right?
But they've
been arrested.
Come here, right? Or
I don't know. There might be a mix of, I don't know the ins and outs of it. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, right. It could have been a mix of men who were born here. It could have been men who have come here, whichever. Or he's talking about as Muslim migrants.
Right, yeah,
I don't think he's
true.
saying migrant Muslim.
No, that's true. That's true.
He's saying the migrants now are just coming in and raping whoever and sexually assaulting whoever and however. Right. Back then, he was just referring to them as the Muslim groom gang. I don't think he was talking about specifically the makeup, whether they were British born or non-British, right? Migrants who come into the country. My point with that is you're highlighting all these things about one demographic, but you're not highlighting the overall problem within the nation. And clearly, it's not just a problem with one demographic, yeah? It's also an issue with the Church of England. There's loads of politicians who are being arrested, and some of them were getting away with it as well, of paedophilia, right? Okay, that's crazy. We've had Jimmy Savile in this country. We've got a rich history, unfortunately, in this country, and I hate to say it like that, of child sex rings.
I mean, if you want to go deep into it, yeah, it's...
Have we not? We have.
Yeah.
We've got no one worries, like, the amount of kids get lost and how many kids are missing each year, you know. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, you're focusing on one. Why? And we're going to get to that because we are going to...
Actually, when you say it like that, true, it's divided.
He's focusing into one only. And why? Because he's doing it to cause a divide. He wants that divide. He wants to create a divide. There's a reason and a purpose behind it. And we're going to get deep into Tommy pretty soon. Yeah, because we're going to play a nice little video later on of Low Key and how he breaks down something about Tommy. Yeah, which I wasn't aware of. Yeah. Obviously, I still need to do my own research. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here saying, hey, I've done my research. No, but... it's an interesting conversation because we have got pictures of him as well in certain situations as well with a certain demographic, yeah. But yeah, I think he's not shouting about it enough. Now, the next article I'm going to bring up, yeah, is white grooming gangs. in the UK. Yeah, so let's just bring that article up.
Yeah.
So as you can see, most child sexual abuse gangs made up of white men, Home Office report says. Study of England, Scotland and Wales dispels myth of Asian grooming gangs popularised by far right. Now, yeah, you could say there's probably there's maybe some bias there because of the way they've gone at. This is an article by The Guardian, yeah?
But also because of the population, like what we discussed earlier,
it's going to be more, right? The majority of child sex abuse gangs are made up of white men under the age of 30, an official paper has said. The report, which covers England, Scotland and Wales and summarises a range of studies on the issue of group-based sexual exploitation, also known as grooming gangs, said there was not enough evidence to conclude that child sexual abuse gangs were disproportionately made up of Asian offenders. High-profile cases, including the Rotherham and Rochdale, got it wrong, but those are, and Telford, have involved groups of men of mainly Pakistani ethnicity, fueling a perception that it is an Asian problem. As a result, Asian grooming gangs have become a cause for the far right, with a number of high-profile figures mounting campaigns across the country. The Home Office paper into the characteristics of such gangs, first promised by the former Home Secretary Sajid Javid in 2018, says while some studies show a possible overrepresentation of black and Asian offenders, it is not possible to conclude that this is representative of all grooming gangs. The review was published after criticism that victims of child abuse had been failed because of fear of accusations of racism. It said research has found that group-based sexual exploitation offenders are most commonly white. Some studies suggest an overrepresentation of black and Asian offenders relative to the demographics of national populations. However, it is not possible to conclude that this is the representative of all group-based CSE offending. This is due to issues such as data quality problems, the way the samples were selected in studies, and the potential for bias and inaccuracies in the way the ethnicity data was collected. It was found that while offenders come from diverse backgrounds, groups tended to be of men of the same ethnicity. Money and sex were motivations, as well as sexual interest in children and misogyny, the review said. The Home Secretary Priti Patel said this paper demonstrates how difficult it has been to draw conclusions about characteristics of offenders. So, I mean, I could read all the way through this again, but it gives you an idea of it's like we said, the prison population and the stuff we talked about. And I encourage you all to go and search out. You can find it easily on the internet. All you've got to do is put it in, just type in the article that I just showed you. But again,
I mean, that article, the language that they use is a little bit biased. But then again, I guess if it's true, then it's true, right?
Yeah, you were saying. So, like, obviously, that article you were saying.
Yeah, the language that they were using in that was a little bit biased, but if it's a fact, then it's a fact, right? Yeah.
No, like, and I think again, it just. I mean, people like talking about misinformation and stuff like that, but then there's a lot of that going around. And I think if you're fueled and motivated by your bias and your prejudice towards a certain group because you just don't want them here, and I honestly believe a lot of the whites in that riot or those protesters or whatever you want to call them, a lot of them just look like, we want all you brown, black people gone.
Go in it, get out.
Then there's probably a portion of them like, no, some of them are all right. There's nothing wrong with the ones that are here who live their life right and contribute to society. It's the wrong ones that we want to get rid of, right? But I honestly believe that the majority of them in those groups are probably like, but that always happens. When the economy is suffering, when there's a recession and something's going on, what's the first thing everyone always blames? It's the immigrants. Or it's the people who aren't white, and especially in Western countries, it is. In America, it's the same. they're always going to blame the ethnic minorities, even if you're born there to this country and you're born and bred here, and the ones that are migrating over it. And yeah, it is having an effect, I'm guessing, to a degree on the infrastructure. We talked about this before. We're not
like massively having it, because it's a small island, to be fair.
But it will have, obviously, like, you got to understand economics properly to understand what kind of effect it's actually having. But at the same time, is it really down to that? I mean, we were already going to a recession going into the pandemic, right? And then that was like, hey, Tories' way is like, hey, it's not our fault. But if the lockdown and all that didn't happen, and all that stuff that happened, the pandemic didn't take place, you would have still fallen into a recession. They would have had to take the blame for that. But it saved it, right? And now, even though even when we came out of the pandemic, we were falling into a recession. We fell into a recession, and only recently they've come and said, yeah, we're now in an official recession. We can't hide it anymore. So is it really because of migrants coming in this country? Who knows? Or is it because it's just been poorly managed, the economy? I don't know. But anyway, look, that's just my thoughts on that one, yeah? Next bit, I kind of want to get your thoughts on. There's a lot of Muslims, and I've heard them saying it. I've even heard some of these speaker corner guys. I think there's a guy, what's he, Mohammed Hijab, saying in 10 years, Britain will be Islamic. And we'll have Sharia law.
Oh, shit.
Here in the United Kingdom, it'll be run by Islamic law. Your thoughts?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised with the way that things are going. But that is quite a bold statement. I don't know if people will allow it. I think as generations and time goes on, religion as a whole is starting to fall. Like the churches are empty and the shopping malls are full.
Yeah.
Islam is growing, but after the statistics that we've already been through, I don't think it's actually that big of a population.
Yeah.
Will they try and bring Sharia law and all that stuff here? I don't know. I don't think it will be accepted, but then again, you might be considered a racist if you don't accept it. So it's catch-22.
I don't think so. And I'll tell you why. Yeah. For that very reason. What is the majority of the demographic of this country?
Yeah.
Why? It's not happening.
It's not happening. But
you would need to, as I know there's an Islamic party being formed for politics, but we had the BNP as well years ago. Many years ago. And where are they now? Flushed out the toilet.
Who's our mayor?
Yeah,
for example.
Exactly. But my point being is I don't think it will work. Yeah. Shall I tell you why? Right. So first of all, you got to get into power. Yeah. To be able to bring those laws into effect. But remember, any law that is signed, it needs to be signed off by the king. Meaning it has to have his royal assent. Right. So they debate it in House of Commons, then it goes to the House of the Lords, then it goes back and forth and all that sort of stuff. And then once they all vote on it and say, yeah, okay, we're going to pass this law, but first we need to send it to the king. And then the king looks at it and goes, nah, not having that. Yeah, or yeah, I'll sign off on that. Yeah, so there's a long process through it. People don't understand that. Do you honestly think our king's going to allow
that? Maybe.
The king of our country is not our king, but I'm going to say our king because he's the king of Britain.
The royal never refuse the laws. They hopefully nip it in the bud during the House of Lords process. But, I mean, I think first we've got to establish what do we mean by Sharia law and what's going to be implemented here.
Women covered up. Everyone, if you're not a Muslim, you pay a tax for not being a Muslim.
Get your hand chopped off for stealing.
Yeah, all that sort of shit.
Do you think that they could bring it into more local governments? Sharia law introduced to local, like in Bradford or something like that, or in Luton, where...
How are you going to do that? And like, it's not like America. We don't have different state police, like different state laws. Like if you cross over to one state to another state, the laws changes. It doesn't work like that.
No, I don't think Sharia law is going to come into play. However, could it be done on a more...
I think it's stupid. I think it's actually you're reaching if you think you're going to achieve that. Yeah, because you ain't just going to piss off the Christians. Yeah, you're going to piss off a white Christian. You're going to piss off Hindus. You're going to piss off Sikhs. Yeah, and Sikhs and Hindus don't... I've talked about this before, right? Coming from an Asian community, yeah, there's rifts between, right? So Muslims and Sikhs don't get along, yeah, because of the religious differences. Same with Sikhs, Muslims and Hindus. Even Sikhs and Hindus can have their differences, but they'll band together.
Yeah,
do you get what I mean? So now you got that problem. You honestly think Jewish people are going to put up with it? Come on, yeah, you've got too many people against you. You're not that big of a demographic. We've already gone for the numbers. They're not.
No.
Yeah. If the rest of the population comes together and turns on you, you're in trouble. So I think it's bullshit.
Yeah,
I think it's pipe dreams. You're dreaming.
Not in the next 10 years.
I don't like. It's not happening.
No,
I don't think so. And especially as you and I know what's really coming, I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't think that.
But I just wanted to touch on it. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna go into the next bit. Tommy Robinson.
Right, this guy.
Okay. But yeah, I've got a bit of footage on him, some pictures of him as well. I'm actually itching to give my opinion on this guy.
I want to see this.
Yeah. So we'll start with Tommy Robinson versus Akala.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, in a debate, and Akala really shut him down. Now Tommy Robinson, he looked quite young there, so this was obviously ages ago. But Tommy Robinson looked like a school kid who just got told he couldn't have a lollipop, like a little kid. At the end of it, that's what I'm gonna say. Yeah, but I thought it was an interesting point of view because what Akala did was Tommy was making his points, and he might have had valid points, but then Akala flipped around and said, "Well, actually, let's call the bullshit on what you're trying to do here because you're only showing one side of it." Yeah.
All right, Sarah.
Nothing.
Akala?
You've got no substance to your argument. You're not even backing up. I have, yeah.
You've got loads of
I have. What happened to Lee Rigby? What happened on 7/7? All the Muslim grooming gangs. Everything I say is factual.
Let someone else speak for a minute, please, Tommy.
Of course, Mr. Robinson, there are no paedophiles who are white, and white people have never bombed anyone else's country.
87% of grooming cases are Muslim, yet 5% of the country is Muslim.
You spoke. Yeah. Let me speak. Now, this is exactly the issue, is what I'm saying, right? As much as I agree with what's being said about this man and his organisation, right? We focus on fringe bigots rather than dealing with the real central issue that we have a political system. I can't count how many times I've read the Daily Mail or some other paper, not that I read these rags, and it says, Pakistani man does blah. When Jimmy Savile is convicted or something comes out about him, is his ethnicity or his religious beliefs put forward as the primary reason for him committing an offence? No. But we stoke the flames of this kind of bigotry, right? And then act shocked when it comes out.
No one's prepared to explain what I've said as bigotry.
One second. For those who don't know, Baghdad was the intellectual, cultural centre of mathematics and art and science about 1,000 years ago for quite a long time. No one blames Islam for that. So negative people who happen to be Muslim, yes, of course, it's your religion that causes it. But if you pioneer mathematics and science and introduce algebra into Europe and the guitar and coffees and lemons, that's not because you're Muslim.
Well, the people...
Okay, I'm going to get an opposing view.
This is exactly what I said at the beginning of the programme. When we deal with racism, rather than dealing with the structural reality and all this nonsense about people are racist because they're frustrated about their life, it's totally classist. What we're saying, only working class people are racist. Do me a favour. Racism was not invented by working class people. It was invented by elite academics through pseudoscientific nonsense and perpetuated as part of political policy. From the top down, not the bottom up. In fact, if we look back at the history of this country, when there were slave catchers in the streets, people had far more allies in working class parts of London than they did from rich people who were trying to catch them and send them back to the Caribbean. So let's be honest about the history and deal with the bigger problems of structural racism, because then smaller things and smaller frustrations that are breeding this type of nonsense won't be excavated so much. But this is the problem, is we focus on nonsense like this rather than dealing with why a British soldier you've probably never heard of, a gentleman called Christopher Alder, died in 1999 in police custody. There is footage on YouTube that you can see for yourself of him on the floor with his bottom half exposed, with police officers around him making monkey noises over his dead body. You've never heard his name. Why?
Tribble.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I think Tommy came out with some facts. If that's true, then that's a fact. But then Akala had to really break it down. I guess it is down to the structural racism from top down. However, if this was, say, for example, let's use India as a country, on their newspapers, they wouldn't say Indian man raped woman. No. But if a non-native was to do something of similar, then they would have to highlight that, wouldn't they?
No.
They wouldn't?
No, I don't think so. A man has just committed a crime. What does it matter if he's black or white?
Because if the majority of the population there is Indian... No. Do they not do this, or do they do this?
No.
Not saying that they should. I'm just saying, though, in other countries, do they also do that?
I think you purposely... so put it this way, right? British black... Well, let's talk about gang situations, right? I've said this before. If a white 14-year-old lad stabs someone to death, they do not highlight his colour, his race. And this is a British-born white kid. If a British-born black or Asian kid does, they do. Why? They're born and bred here, right? The crime is I'm not condoning the crime. What I'm saying is they will say 14-year-old black male stabbed blah 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 blah, or 14-year-old Asian male da 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 da. But they won't say 14-year-old white male. They'll also say 14-year-old male. And these are three British-born different races. So why do you do that? It's not just about migrants. They do this to all people who are coming into the country. These are people, they do it with the ones that are born here as well. So that to me is you're trying to push that, it's the blacks who are doing all the stabbing and the killing. But let's look at it this way. 2005, I think it was. What city was the murder capital of Europe? Glasgow.
Was it?
Where there's barely a black face.
Mm-hmm.
So who was committing all these killings and these murders? Right now, it's London is the capital, not of Europe, but of the UK, but of Europe was Glasgow. So to turn around and say, is it the case of that you're trying to relate crime to colour, race and religion, when that's not the case? That sort of crime, like stabbings and robberies and all that sort of stuff, is down to demographics of the term, or geographics if you want to say it, to poverty. Wherever you've got the most poverty, you're going to have the highest crime rates, because people are like, I can't afford that, so I'm going to steal it. Or I'm going to take it from someone. Do you understand?
So to what extent then should we use labels at all? So if we're not going to... I get that. Firstly, though, I see that they should be consistent.
You can use labels. I'm not saying that, but you have to use labels with everyone.
Yeah.
So if it's a 14-year-old British, a 14-year-old white male, then say 14-year-old white male. Yeah. If you want to use labels, use it consistently.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Or don't use it at all.
Mm-hmm.
That's my point. And he made a good point as well. He's talking about Lee Rigby, which we know was a heinous crime. A British soldier who got, I think he got beheaded, didn't he, by the Muslim?
Bullets,
it was that Muslim who did that, right? Okay, which was disgusting. We know we don't agree with that, but at the same time, he's bringing up a black British soldier who had his arse out in the police station, and the coppers were standing over him making monkey noises, and that's when you saw Tommy's response to that was.
Not saying
so
that.
why are you not? And that's what the point that Carla's trying to make is you're not pointing that out. Yes, you're pointing out these points. We're aware of it. It's a problem, but you're not pointing it out in all areas.
It's all over the place.
So again, you're showing a bias.
Yeah.
To a set group of individuals.
Yeah,
that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Let's move on to Loki's little exposure video of Tommy Robinson.
I want to see this
because he kind of breaks down something that you and I have been discussing for a while now. And then I'm going to give my take on it, and I'll allow you to give your take on the back of it as well. Yeah.
Who is Tommy Robinson, and who helped him get to where he is today? When we look into the background of the organisation he founded, the English Defence League, we could take the view that it was intended to be an offshoot of the terrorist Zionist organisation, the JDL, the Jewish Defence League. In fact, his co-founder at the English Defence League was an individual who called himself Paul Ray. Paul Ray, prior to founding the English Defence League, infiltrated the International Solidarity Movement, a pro-Palestinian organisation which Rachel Corrie had been a member of. Paul Ray infiltrated and spied on this pro-Palestinian organisation and then submitted the information to several different intelligence agencies. Following his work for Israel, Paul Ray founded the English Defence League with Tommy Robinson. When it came time for the English Defence League to be registered on Companies House, that was carried out by a former Israeli soldier, Roberta Moore. Moore led what they called the EDL's Jewish Unit, which regularly partnered with the Zionist Federation to hold demonstrations outside the Israeli embassy. Roberta Moore is pictured here with the vice chair of the Zionist Federation at the time, Jonathan Hoffman.
Jonathan Hoffman is a former vice chair of the Zionist Federation. Members of the racist English Defence League
or EDL, attended a demonstration that Hoffman helped organize. He is photographed alongside Roberta Moore, the founder of the EDL's Jewish division. She will later express her admiration for Anders Breivik, the neo-Nazi who murdered 77 people in Norway.
When Roberta Moore was asked if the EDL was exploiting the Zionist movement, she replied, "If anything, we are exploiting them."
I received these packages today.
He's admired somewhat as one of the brains of the EDL. He's just got a delivery of quotes from the Quran from his researcher in Israel.
Roberta Moore is pictured here alongside the head of the Canadian branch of the Zionist terror organization, the JDL, and the genocidal Israeli politician Moshe Feiglin, who has called for the complete annihilation of all human life in Gaza. On the 28th of February 2013, the English Defence League, as registered on Companies House, was changed. The name of the organisation became the Jewish Defence League, JDL UK. It's important to remember that the JDL is designated as a terrorist organisation by the US government. It was founded by Meir Kahane, the well-known Israeli fascist, who advocated for the complete ethnic cleansing of Palestine. But the connections of Tommy Robinson and the English Defence League to the JDL do not end there. One of the earliest supporters of the EDL and a regular speaker at their rallies outside of the Israeli embassy was none other than Rabbi Nachum Shifrin.
How would you feel if one day your children or your grandchildren are saying 5 times a day, Allah Akbar? Well, this is what is coming down on you here and now. It will be recalled on this day that it was the EDL that started the liberation of England.
Nachum Shifrin was the driver for the founder of the JDL, Meir Kahane. The only other time the English Defence League was registered on Companies House was by Tommy Robinson's personal assistant, Helen Gower. When she registered the organisation, the name was the English and Jewish Defence League. So the question has to be asked here, was Tommy Robinson's English Defence League founded to be an offshoot of the Zionist terrorist organisation, the JDL? And if so, why hasn't that been mentioned or written about extensively in the British media? Tommy Robinson then went on to be a Shillman Fellow at the David Horowitz Freedom Centre. Now, the David Horowitz Freedom Centre shares funders with the Friends of the IDF and illegal settlements in the West Bank. But that position was directly funded by tech billionaire Robert Shillman. Who is Robert Shillman? Well, he was a board member on the Friends of the IDF at the very same time that he was funding Tommy Robinson to the tune of £8,000 a month, according to his other former assistant, Lucy Brown. Here we see Robert Shillman speaking at the Zionist Organization of America and describing his pen and his checkbook as weapons.
With this pen and my checkbook, I provide ammunition. I wield a pen to provide ammunition to those organizations like ZOA who are on the front lines in this battle.
Tommy Robinson has also received funding from the US neocon think tank, the Middle East Forum, which was quoted 13 times by Anders Breivik in his manifesto he released before killing over 70 people. The head of the Middle East Forum is Greg Roman, who's a former employee of the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Israeli Ministry of Defense. Now, all of these connections would certainly cause you to question where Tommy Robinson's ultimate loyalties lie, especially when he has been pictured on the top of a tank in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights of Syria and stated so clearly that he would enter a war on behalf of Israel.
If there was a war tomorrow, which there will be, because I'll probably start at the end of the session, if there was a war and it kicked off, I would be there on the front line fighting for Israel.
Save our kids? What about the 20,000 kids killed by Israel in Gaza? When Israel killed 3 former British soldiers with an airstrike in Gaza. What was the response of Britain's patriot, Tommy Robinson? British people that do aid work in Gaza are cucks. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. How can Tommy Robinson define himself as a patriot but speak with such callousness about the death of former British soldiers? I think Tommy Robinson owes an apology to the families of John Chapman, James Kirby and James Henderson. Those who serve as an attachment to the war industry have sought to pin the blame for what is happening in this country on Russia. It's interesting because there is far more of a material connection between Tommy Robinson and a particular genocidal ally in the Middle East. As you've seen, unfortunately, the mainstream media...
So,
what
do you think about your boy Tommy now?
I never knew that. I mean, obviously I've just recently came across his connection with Israel, with the photos and stuff, but I never saw it broken down into the extent. I mean, growing up, when I was listening to him, he made a lot of sense to me. It was reflective of what I was seeing and with the news articles, and maybe I did get a little bit swayed, especially when the left are saying, no, he's bad, but without, and you know, similar to like what was going on with Tate, where they just clip it a little bit and then they'll tell you he's bad, don't listen to him, or you're going to be bad and wrong for agreeing. But the more I listened to him in full form content, I was like, well, he's not saying anything wrong if he's backing up with stats, and maybe this is an issue. Obviously, what we've spoken about in this podcast, you know, with the Church of England and so on, and with the video with Akala, how he's not addressing everything, and that's always going to be a bit more suspicious when you're selective on who you're attacking, for lack of a better word. But the way Loki broke it down from the root of when it was started, who's involved, other key players, and the demographic that's supporting and funding it. And then obviously him being an idiot on a selfie video, straight up saying if there's a war tomorrow, I'm going to be on the front line fighting. Yeah, he's discredited in my eyes now.
So, you know, there's clearly a partnership between Tommy and them. And he's got ties to Israel, clearly.
Controlled opposition for sure now.
I would turn around and say and go as far as saying that, and I'm going to say it is, Tommy Robinson is a Israeli Mossad agent.
Yeah.
Operating here in the United Kingdom. And a lot of people are trying to defend Tommy, and there's a lot of stuff. And when I see the comment sections of videos of him and wearing t-shirts like that, and him praying at the wall, is it the Western Wall?
Yeah, I saw that.
And all that, like, well, when you go to a country, you know, you go pay your respects. I'm going, not really. I might go there and have a look. All right, that's the Western Wall. I'm not necessarily going to go there and do a prayer. Do you know what I mean?
And everything.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to have a look at it and maybe take a picture and then go, right? I'm not going to, you know, and we've seen, I put a recent video up, you saw that, you know which one I'm on about, which is still being contested by TikTok, right? The people that go to that wall, yeah?
Yeah.
So, when I say
it's a
too
bigger
much,
club, isn't it? Yeah.
And I'm going to go as far as saying what I've just said about him. You know, he's here to disrupt, to cause chaos, division,
pick a side,
controlled opposition, controlling the larger population of this country, which is the majority white, and get them into a frenzy and warring with the ethnic minorities in this country. That's how I see it. But we'll go deeper because we're going to talk about the truth. Well, again, we're not going to go revealing what's going to come at the end, our summary of our findings here, yeah?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how far I'm going to go with Tommy Robinson, right?
No, that was necessary for me to see, because obviously, as I said, I was probably more leaning towards what they were preaching for in a weird way. Obviously, I don't agree with violence or anything like that, but what they were arguing made sense. And then when I see the other side, you know, shouting abuse, the supposedly loving side, calling them, oh, you Nazis, you not, you know, I saw the counter protest, should I say. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to be part of that group. But after seeing the bigger picture of it all now.
It's interesting though, right? Okay. right, that those counter protests, right, you know what I found really fascinating about was how quickly they came together to counter protest these white Brits.
Yeah.
But not only that, the boards that they had like proper printed placard boards saying "out with fascists" in red and yellow. Do you remember? You saw it, right?
I saw loads of
and there were
ones.
hundreds and thousands. There was thousands of them.
Yeah.
How did you do that in a space of such a small, like literally overnight you printed those? So that, I can only assume they were pre-printed.
Mass operation, innit?
And ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, like, in that time, I was like, oh, this is just division. But now that I'm seeing the bigger picture, maybe it's all part of the game plan. Pick a side, guys. That's what they want you to do.
But let's move on to the next bit.
Yeah.
The offence of incitement to racial hatred involves publishing or distributing material which is insulting or abusive, which is intended to or likely to start racial hatred. So if you retweet that, then you're republishing that, and then potentially you're committing that offence. And we do have dedicated police officers who are scouring social media. Their job is to look for this material and then follow up with identification, arrests, and so forth. So it's a really, really serious. People might think they're not doing anything harmful. They are, and the consequences will be visited upon them.
So your thoughts on a censorship or what he's just said there, whoever he is obviously part of the Labour Party or works whatever he does. But
I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of it. I get where they're coming from. If I had to put my like a normie head on it, like yeah, they want to police the social media because it's offensive and it could incite hate, which is wrong. So I get why they're doing that. But at the same time, there's also stabbings going on all across the UK. Very, very bad problem. There's crime is rife at the moment. And to put a police budget into policing social media, like I see it all the time, man. People's phones getting jacked and stuff like that. It's, you know, and there's no police officer in sight. In the stations, I'm looking for officers, not an officer in sight. So to put that into the budget.
Scary thing, it's also at the same time, right? I had a hospital appointment the other week, last week. And as I'm walking around the hospital, because I was literally there all day long, right? So there's times where I had to go, like, they needed me to drink a whole load of water. So they said, just go for a walk, drink some water while you're out, and when you're ready to come back, you can give us your sample or whatever they needed me to do, yeah? As I'm walking around, I could go anywhere in the hospital I wanted to. There was barely a camera, and the one where there should have been a camera was smashed. I was like, I could come here and do whatever I want. You wouldn't be able to stop me.
No.
I accidentally took the wrong turn and nearly went into the paternity ward. The maternity ward, yeah? There was a nurse behind me. She should have said, excuse me, sir. And I turned around and I went like this. And when I was like, oh shit, I'm in the wrong place, she said, excuse me, should you be here? She didn't even ask me, she just walked right past me. I could have done what I ever wanted. I could have gone in there and probably snatched kids and ran out.
Oh, shit.
Not saying I would, but do you know what I mean? If I was that sort of person,
what's going on here?
I could go and do that. There's no security in the hospitals either. And I thought, this is
lawless. This country is lawless.
Scary. Like, there's no protection whatsoever, or places that need to be safeguarded. And it's
but that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I think the country's gone lawless. So then to now put stricter laws on policing social media,
let's call it what it is.
I don't agree with it. I think there's better resources to be put elsewhere. And
I think, you know what,
if
I was to rethink it and re-say what I said earlier on, right, is if someone makes a racist comment towards someone, even if it's on social media or into their face, they got to understand there's going to be consequences of that, and the consequences of that you might get punched in the face for it. So say what you want, but don't get upset and mad and start calling the police when you get battered for it. Go take it like a man, or take it as, do you mean, take it on the chin, shall I say, right? Because you're going to say something like that, you're going to offend the person who's of the opposite colour of you and who you're directing at. They're going to give you a smack for it, potentially.
So then that person can get done for assault.
But that basically means you need to, do you get what I'm trying to say? And there will be consequences, because some people won't use words to retaliate. Some people will say, what? Bang. Yeah. So where does it go then, right? Okay, because if then he gets done for assault and the person says, oh, he assaulted me, and we'll go, well, he called me a backie. Do you know what I mean? He'll call me the N-word or whatever. or he said "F my God," like, then there's got to be if there's going to be repercussions for the one who committed assault. Well, then what happens to the guy who antagonized him and insulted him? Where do you go with it? Like, it's a grey area. It's a hard one to debate and to have a conversation and say yes. What's the answer?
Yeah, it's a very complex subject. Policing social media
But even just in person, they're talking about it as well. There's like, some of these guys are being arrested for what they said out loud while they're out and about, while they're in the protests and stuff like that.
Well, if it's a hate crime, it's a hate crime, isn't it?
But yeah, you just think my concern is that how far they go and who defines.
But this is where that's the problem. Yeah.
So you and I can speak out against the government for their policies and they're wrong, and their policies are wrong, whether it be economic policies or whatever like that, or just Keir Starmer is not the man for the job and he needs to step down. Arrest him. Yeah.
Oh, fucked.
It's a hate crime. They're against the British government. Arrest them.
This is where it's going towards, though, or could go towards. You're right. I think that who draws the line?
Where's the line?
Who's officiating it?
Yeah.
That's
What's the standard?
Yeah.
And that's
because it just said there you could be done for publishing or retweeting something offensive, but who defines what's offensive?
But you can't. If someone agrees with something, someone agrees with it. If they've retweeted and not made a comment, they've just retweeted it. It just means they've agreed with it. Some people retweet and don't like because they want to keep the content for later on. You might want to have a debate with someone later on. Okay, hey, I'll show you. I retweeted it.
Yeah, does liking the comment make you offensive then?
Yeah, apparently.
So even liking it, they can look at who's liked it and
what comments are you liking and stuff like that.
Shit.
So real policing, and he's just said they've got police officers looking at it and monitoring it. And I'm like, what?
Oh man, it's lawless out here.
So it's a scary thought, man. Like, how is that any different from like Tate said earlier on, Stalin?
It's communism in a minute.
And this is what I said to him.
But it's just gonna get worse.
I said to everyone, I've said it to my mates a couple of years ago, and I said, do you know we just live in a communist state. We just don't realise it because they give us certain freedoms. Okay, so how it operates in China is only going to get worse here, to the point where you're not going to have any rights. And look what's happening. It's like you're using this as an excuse, what's happening, to now implement things that your agenda
was always going to come in. Yeah.
But anyway, so the government and the mainstream media will also blaming riots on social media. Tommy Robinson, Andrew Tate, and Elon Musk. Elon Musk is an interesting one because they're saying that they wanted to extradite him and bring him to the UK and charge him for inciting violence. But the thing is, he didn't incite
because of what? For what he said last time.
All he said was, this is all he said. He said he predicted years ago there'd be civil war in Europe, or across Europe, civil wars. Yeah, and he said civil war in Europe, civil war in the UK coming imminent or something like that. And they were like, that incited violence. No, he's just giving his opinion of this situation and breaking it down. So how is that inciting violence? The violence was already there. The fact that you ignored that majority population in your country, which are the whites, and what they're feeling and what their concerns are, that's what's incited the violence. That you've not taken any action. But now they're trying to palm it off. Well, it's not our fault. It's his fault. Elon Musk. It's Andrew Tate's fault. It's this person's fault. No, it's your fault. You're the government. You ignored them. You ignored your people. A group of your people. A certain demographic of your people. That's the way I see it. Agree?
Yeah, but even then, all three characters that you mentioned are very questionable. You know, as you said, Tommy Robinson, Andrew Tate, and Elon Musk, which...
Elon Musk as well. Like, people think he's some sort of savior, of freedom.
I don't see him as that.
Bullshit.
And I got my reasons, which I'm not even going to get into.
It's the same guy who's building AI robots to replace you, who are now starting to, who this year are going to start working in his factories, and he's hoping by 2026 to start selling them and distributing for other companies. They're going to replace you. Did you watch that clip I sent you about the school teachers? They're doing the trial in there where AI is going to take over teaching kids in school. School teachers, yeah. So, this is the guy you're going to trust? The guy who wants to put a chip in your head?
Chip in your head, yeah.
He'll probably design the chip that goes in, the more advanced chip that goes in your hand, although they already exist. Come on, man.
Yeah, so I don't trust any of those guys. But the point of them policing social media is quite scary. That is very... Like, the thing is, as you said, it is communism, but they make it seem like you have the illusion of freedom. Whereas at least in China, they're outright, we're going to take away your freedoms, but we'll give you
X, Y. The thing is, you know, the funny thing is when you look at China, right? If you actually go to China and you actually listen to people who live in China, the West make it out like the Chinese, oh my God, we live under these terrible conditions. But they're not. They're happy as Larry.
It's well advanced.
They actually defend
the
Chinese, what was it, Chinese Communist Party of People or something like that, whatever
CCP.
it is. CCP. They actually defend. I've seen them having debates about why, like, you know, the Hong Kong thing that went on. And they were, people from Hong Kong, they were like, why are you talking bad about our government and our country? It's a good government, it's a good country. They're defending it.
I mean,
they actually love living in their country.
My cousin went to China, but not like mainstream touristy China. He went to like a rural kind of, still a city, but not like
so not like Beijing and...
some Xinjiang kind of town, because he knew a girl there that's like working there as a Russian translator or something. So he went over there and he was just like, it's so advanced. You know, we got the Canary Wharf skyscrapers. He was like, it's impressive, but it's not. Compared to China, they got buildings twice the size of that, full glass, full metal. The cameras, like, you could leave your bike on the streets, no one's going to touch it, because, you know, if you report to the police, my bike got stolen, whereabouts? Cool, they'll see the camera, oh yeah, we know this guy. Facial recognitions on all the streets. And you can look at it from the perspective of it's a digital prison in that sense, but you can't deny that the streets are safe, the streets are clean, shops are well stocked, people
The question are the people happy?
The quality of life is good, is what he saw. Obviously, he's not living there. But when he was there, he was like, it's pretty good.
Because I've seen some YouTubers who do live out there, like from the West, from the US, from the UK, stuff like that. And I was like watching it and going, let's show you China.
Like
and they were showing, and I was like, the real China. I thought, wow, you know what? Clean streets,
no crime,
advanced transport. You know, you can get anywhere you want within the country or within your city. You don't need a car. You don't need. Do you know what I mean? You look around, you think actually people seem to be living a good life out there, and they seem happy with their life, and they can have a mortgage. They can have all the materialistic things that they want that we have out here. But there is one thing is obviously you don't speak out against your government and stuff like that. So but they support their government anyway, because if they were happy in what's going on, then
you would support it, right?
Well, you're going to be supportive, aren't you? If you manage correctly. It's a weird one,
same with like North Korea. I mean, like, what's actually going on in there?
We don't know. We don't see.
Don't see nothing, and like.
Although there is that woman. Have you seen? I haven't watched the whole podcast, but she came out of. Actually, we should play a clip when we talk.
The one with the comedians, with Andrew Schultz and them.
No, she's from North Korea.
Yeah, but
she escaped it. She was on Joe Rogan. She was on her own.
On her own.
It's very petite, skinny, young.
Yeah, I think she was also on Andrew Schultz, and she was talking about it.
Yeah, but she gave a good thing about a good example of what socialism will lead to, which is what a lot of people are crying out for now, right? Everyone equal. Share the wealth and all that stuff, which is just socialism is communism anyway. A lot of people don't pick up on it. Marxism's communism and socialism is exactly the same thing. But look, I mean,
because I saw some pictures of North Korea, and it was just like the way the guy was explaining. It's like, look, there's no one here is obese. There's no obesity in North Korea. Everybody's kind of like, the streets are clean. They've got their nature. It's a more modest lifestyle. But like things like on the surface actually look all right. Like the media is making it sound like.
But they always do that, man.
Yeah, but that's the crazy bit.
They did that about Libya as well. And look, Gaddafi loved his people, and do you know what I mean? And it was crazy what I learned about him, because he found water. Obviously, he was digging for, what was he digging for? Oil.
Yeah.
And found natural water under the ground. Yeah. He then built a pipeline, and I believe that pipeline also went out to Africa as well. So he didn't just think about his own country; he thought about his continent as well. Yeah, the people in his continent, and he even turned around and said, like, if you want to start a farm, even if you're in another country, I will give you the money. You use the water we've got, but it has to be organic, no chemicals,
straight up, like
clean food, natural clean food.
They can't have that.
If I find out you're doing the naughty stuff, we take away your funding and take your farm back.
Crazy what world we could have lived in, and And I think I think it might
It's
be
crazy what's possible, isn't it?
Yeah. Someone else was saying, I think it was about Gaddafi, but just in general, like some of these leaders, they'll drive around in like convertible, open top, waving at the people.
Yeah.
But in the West, they're in bulletproof cars with motorcades.
Says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah, it says it all, right?
Who's the real tyrant?
Yeah.
Anyway, look. There's also, obviously, we kind of touched on two-tier policing as well, but I want to play a video from Loki again, where he talks about two-tier policing, and he makes some good points as well. Yeah, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist with this whole topic, but he makes some good points as well.
They talk about two-tier policing. Do they know that in the 2011 riots, 2,158 people were prosecuted and a total of 1,800 years were given in sentences to those people who were disproportionately working class and ethnic minorities? Stick that up your two-tier system. The way the British state is behaving today is not a new thing, and it's not an aberration of previous behavior. In 2011, we saw 2 men go to jail for 4 years for Facebook posts. You even saw a man jailed for 16 months for taking an ice cream and having 1 lick. And student Nicholas Robinson was jailed for 6 months for stealing a bottle of water. Tommy Robinson posts frantically about the arresting of children. Do they know that half of those processed through the courts off the back of the 2011 riots were under the age of 20, and a quarter of them were children? Those strict prison sentences, which were overseen by the current Prime Minister Keir Starmer, have been found to have led to a cycle of re-offending and re-incarceration. The 2011 riots were based on something that happened. Mark Duggan was killed by the police. These riots were based on something that happened, but did not happen the way it was explained to people. In both cases, you have the disaffected and misdirected sent into the arms of the British prison system. What are some of the sentences that have been meted out by the British state during this period? A 20-year-old man made a post on Facebook which received 6 likes. He was jailed for 20 months. That's not to agree with what he posted on Facebook. But do you not see a commonality between those who are being harshly sentenced now with those in the 2011 riots who were so harshly sentenced then? And where were these claims of two-tier policing when climate activists were given 5 years in prison? It needs to be understood by all. These harsh sentences do not lead to a better world, not for the individual jailed or for the rest of our society. Two-tier policing is a myth. You are being lied to. You have more in common with those on both sides of this supposed tier than you have with the people jailing them now. When you compare what happened on the Palestine marches to what's happening today with the burning of hotels and attacking members of the public, on the Palestine protest, you saw a mother arrested with her children for holding a placard that contained a swear word. You saw a woman arrested for holding up a placard with coconuts on it.
I do not want to live in a country with Hamas supporters. I want them deported. I want them chucked out. Simple. And I will do everything I can to ensure that happens.
The same people that believe people should be criminalized on pro-Palestine anti-genocide marches and that Palestinian supporters should be chased out of public life are somehow able to portray themselves as champions of free speech. It's all a lie and an inversion of reality. Unfortunately, there has been a carefully crafted mythology of quote-unquote two-tier policing. The idea that white people in this country are discriminated against by law enforcement. Black people are 9 times more likely to be stopped and searched by the police. you are 154 times more likely to be stopped under Schedule 7 Terrorism Act if you are a person of Pakistani origin. Of the 500,000 people that have been stopped under the Schedule 7 Terrorism Act, 80% of them are ethnic minorities, despite only making up 13% of the population. And yes, it is absolutely unacceptable that you are seeing people go to jail for Facebook posts today. But this is not actually a new thing. Let me be clear. I support the rights of refugees, but I also oppose the sentencing of somebody for a tweet to 38 months in jail. And to those who are cheering it on, they have to remember the very same forms of authoritarianism being visited upon those who took part in these riots across 16 towns and cities will be used upon you. Ultimately, the way that this manufactured narrative is defeated is when it bumps up against reality. Just some days ago, a man stabbed an 11-year-old girl and a woman in her 30s in central London. Who was it that came to the rescue, risked his life to disarm the man and save countless others? Meet Abdullah.
I saw that he was stabbing a kid. I jumped on him, hold the hand in which he was having a knife, and I just put him down on the floor and just hold him and kick the knife away from him. And then a couple of more people joined as well, and we just hold him until the police came. It took like maybe 3 to 4 minutes, police arrived, and then they just stood with the custody. And the child, just like all my colleagues, they gave him first aid, and in the meanwhile, police came as well, and they just gave the first aid.
This smashes the myth of one target population within this country who are supposedly predisposed or have an inclination towards violence. If you look a little closer, you will find the opposite is true. We're all human beings. As you've seen, unfortunately...
Your thoughts?
Yeah, he's absolutely right. I think we're all human beings. I mean, the two-tier policing just came onto, it was a term everybody started throwing around recently. I guess when you highlight the fact that it's not and that people are getting arrested, maybe that's just another media bias that they're trying to push, another narrative. I don't think, though, that people getting arrested for the 2011 riots is harsh. I think, you know, the damage that they caused, I think there should have been more stricter, because these guys were literally looting, burning down buildings. I think it should have been worse.
I think if you're going out and you're rioting, you're damaging buildings, vandalism, you're stealing, that's theft. Those are crimes serious crimes that you're breaking there. Absolutely, you know, if someone breaks into my house, I expect them to go to jail.
Yeah, so for him to say it's too tough because they were young, I don't believe that. I think they should have been pushed to the
They knew the difference between right and wrong.
I remember during
this is nothing I don't believe. This is another thing that pisses me off, right? Because I've had this debate about, you know, that Shahida Begum.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and
She should not.
And typical, like when you have this debate with women, oh well, she was only 15. They need to. No, this is black and obviously Asian women, and I'm like, I turn around and go, no, absolutely not. You're not letting her back in the country.
No way.
I go, absolutely not. Don't tell me she was 15 and she didn't know what she was doing. She's 15, she knew what she was doing. At 15, you've got a brain, you know what's going on. You're not an idiot. At 15, I knew what terrorism was. I knew what attacks were. As a 10-year-old, I knew what that was. With the RRA, when the RRA were bombing the UK at times, you know what I mean? So I knew what terrorism is. Don't tell me you didn't know. They knew what she
knew. She wanted to go there and fight.
She wanted to go because she thought it was something glamorous. She was going to be this rich queen over there or Islamic queen over there or something and treated like royalty. And to be fair, the only reason she wants to come back now is because ISIS has nearly not been smashed wherever it is she was, in Syria, wherever it is. And now, you know, she's stuck in a refugee camp with no nationality. And now she's like, oh, I want to come home. No. And another thing is, how do you know they showed it as well. When they showed that and they did an interview with her and they started going around trying to like just conversate with the other women in that who are former ISIS women as well. And some of them were like, ISIS, like, they're still doing it. So how do you know she's not the same? And she comes back in and then she starts joining up and starts doing terrorist acts here in the UK. No, stay there. You can stay there. You ain't coming back.
No, anyone who's trying to like...
Anyone who's trying to be like, oh, she's only 15, she don't know. She knew what she was doing. Shut the fuck up. She can stay there.
So
she can rot there. She can stay.
Yeah, fully. But yeah, I think if they're going to commit a crime, they should be put to the fullest extent.
And that's the same applies to these kids. They know the difference between right and wrong.
Of course.
They know rioting is wrong. They know breaking and stealing and all these sort of things are wrong.
Had nothing to do with Mark Duggan at that point.
Yeah, the actual initial riot in Tottenham, I can understand to a degree. It might have exploded because of that situation, because that's where it took place. Mark Duggan.
But why are you setting buildings on fire in Croydon?
But again, and I said, why? But even Manchester,
Yeah,
Liverpool, why were you burning buildings? And these weren't just. And again, these weren't just black people doing this. This was white people in other parts of the country taking an opportunity to just commit crime, loot, steal. School teachers were getting caught doing it, for crying out loud.
Because I remember Boris Johnson was the mayor at the time, and he wanted to bring in water cannons, and he bought a bunch of fire trucks that they were going to be, or water cannon trucks that were going to be converted into Metropolitan Police.
Yeah.
But then the UK government was like, nuts, too.
No, it was should have taken it.
Well, this is what I was saying. At the time, I was like, well, I think that would be a very good idea to disperse the crowd.
Absolutely, yeah.
You clearly don't have enough police officers to deal with
it. So
petrol
use the water
bombs and
cannon.
stuff like that.
I'm not saying use bullets and stuff like that, but
No,
use the water cannon.
But
Do you know what?
the
Don't be
UK
right.
government decided that it was
even
too
if you use rubber
extreme.
bullets, rubber bullets, just shoot them in the leg and just incapacitate them. Fine. Yeah, but water cannons, why not? Other countries do it.
Yeah, I was in favour of the water cannons. However, they decided that it was too extreme a force against the rioters. So back to the video then, I mean, to say that was too harsh of a sentence, I disagree with. I think there probably should have been more sentences. I mean, as I said, if you're 15 or half of them under 20.
I'll tell you what I really agree with. He's just said what Tate said as well, is that you'll find that you have more in common with each other than you think.
Yeah.
And that's the bit that people are missing.
That's the thing. So when it comes to us being humans and to stop singling out any particular group, I agree with that. But, likewise, this whole two-tier, if it's not true, then that's great. But I think people should be pushed to the fullest extent. I don't agree with the social media policing, though. That's a bit mad, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you should just leave that alone.
Look,
if people want to say
rioting, burning buildings and stuff like that, there's physical loss of property and value to the society. That's wrong. The Just Stop Oil protesters, blocking the M25 is not only a traffic hazard, causing disruptions.
No, but there were people who were trying to get to hospital in an emergency in an ambulance and couldn't and died.
This is wrong. People are being affected for that.
Yeah.
What was the pro-Palestine? If they're going to start being aggressive in their protest, that's also wrong. But to put a tweet out,
I think, with those pro-Palestine...
That's a bit, they shouldn't get 20 months in prison for that.
The pro-Palestine... the bit I don't like about those protests is when you get the individuals flying the ISIS flag.
Shit.
Which I've seen evidence of.
They do that.
Yeah, there's some people that were flying ISIS flags. Like those, you should be turning around like, what the hell are you doing, mate? Smack. Give me that shit.
Yeah.
Throw that in the bin. Oi, copper, take this fucker away. We're not about that.
No.
Yeah, and you for that shit you should be arrested. I think like that's not something you should be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and likewise, if someone was waving around a swastika,
technically, isn't that treason?
Yeah,
in a sense.
Yeah, it's a terrorist organization, right?
Yeah.
So from those perspectives, I agree that the law is in place and the law needs to be upheld. I'm not against that, but the whole policing of social media, I'm very. Because even what we're doing right now could be considered to the wrong person, as we establish who's officiating this, who's deciding what is acceptable or not. Is us even just repeating news articles going to be considered? As you said, we've got videos that are in dispute at the moment, but the videos are literally just showing actual photos and actual facts
and actual people saying things.
So is that all of a sudden going to be policed to that extent? So that's where it gets a bit
shady,
controversial, and I don't really support that, and I don't like the way that they're taking that direction.
Like we said before, though, innit, right? Who's deciding what's offensive? Who's deciding what's criminal? Who's deciding what you're saying is, do you know what I mean, harmful or hateful or even terrorism? Now they're even saying misogyny is now going to be treated under terrorism. Like, have you heard about that?
No, I have not heard that.
I'm not going to go into that right now. I'm just giving that as an example. We could do another episode on that, yeah. But they're literally saying misogyny will now be classed as a terrorist act. So anything you don't like is going to be classed as something like come on, give me a break, man. Anyway, let's talk about Keir Starmer now and his connections to the World Economic Forum. So before we get into this, let's play a little clip.
Yep. Let's do it.
Our country needs a bigger reset.
We need a great reset.
Let us just ask you quickly, you have to choose now between Davos or Westminster?
Davos.
Why?
Because Westminster is too constrained, and it's closed, and we're not having meaning. Once you get out of Westminster, whether it's Davos or anywhere else, you actually engage with people that you can see working with in the future. Westminster is just a tribal shouting place.
Are you surprised that your Prime Minister didn't show up to Davos?
Yes, I think our Prime Minister should have showed up at Davos. I absolutely do. And one of the things that's been, impressed on me since I've been here is the absence of the United Kingdom, and that's why it's really important that I'm here and that our Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves is here as a statement of intent that should there be a change of government, and I hope there will be, the United Kingdom will play its part on the global stage in a way I think it probably hasn't in recent years.
What we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, so that we penetrate the cabinets.
My government will serve you. Country first, party second.
Davos or Westminster?
Davos.
So treble.
Fuck that guy.
Our so-called Prime Minister and leader. Fuck him, right?
I hate that guy.
I mean...
He just said it straight outright as well. But people don't see this. People don't even know what the World Economic Forum is for the most part. People don't even know where Davos is.
The thing is, like, people don't even pay attention to the news, and people who do watch it, the bit part watch it. People are more concerned with what's going on in the celebrity world than they are.
Yeah, but even the people who are waving Labour flags and that were campaigning for Labour back in the election time, people, the odds for Labour to win was 33-1 for, if you're not a betting guy, but or 1 to 33, should I say?
Yeah.
Meaning you put like £1,000, you get 30 quid back.
Yeah.
They were that strong of favourites. People want this Labour government in, and most of them wouldn't even know who's running its actual agenda is.
Yeah.
He just said it outright, right? That he supports Davos over Westminster.
Look, that says it all. We'll obviously, with our final thoughts or whatever, we'll touch on a little bit on that. But I kind of wanted to show that as evidence as what's really going on.
So it's all scripted. It's all planned. We know what the game plan is.
So my next bit is, all right, were the riots and even the counter-protest riots, whatever you want to call them, disrespectful to the lives of those 3 girls who tragically lost their lives in that heinous attack?
Ultimately disrespectful, yeah.
Yeah.
The initial protest was definitely disrespectful. Because why are you rioting on the back of that?
Yeah.
Or because that is disrespectful. Counter protest as well is just a bit insensitive. The whole riotings and protesting as a whole, all these demonstrations taking place is just a bit misguided.
I'll play a clip in a minute from, I can't remember what channel, Talk, was it Talk, whatever? What's it called?
Talk TV?
Yeah, that's the one I think. The one that Piers Morgan's shows on, Uncensored, Talk TV, right?
Probably.
Anyway, yeah, but I'm going to play the clip from that in a minute, because obviously that's why I was asking this question. I have to agree. Yeah, I think, like, those 3 girls, like, I'm not hearing anyone talk about them anymore.
No.
It was like a 5-minute thing, and now it's all about the far right are racist and fascist, and we on the left, free Palestine, yeah, you're all welcome here. But it's like, what about those families? What about those girls? How about some respect?
Shows you how it's sensitive they really are, right?
You do a minute silence for so many things, but you won't even do a minute silence
That's
for
why I hate
3 girls who lost their lives.
Especially specifically with the people in the left, because they're the ones who are virtue signaling the most.
Yeah.
Is that they come across like they're the
caring type.
The caring type.
They don't give a shit.
They don't give a shit.
You know, I suppose with the riot, what you see is what you get.
Yeah, they're a bit more upfront about it. Like, look, we don't care about you guys, or they care about themselves. Yeah. But the people in the left, they virtue signal.
We love everyone, and we care. We want to bring us all together, and we want equality and diversity, inclusivity.
But they're the ones with the most hated bit.
But then you want to divide and say, well, you don't believe like we do, so get out of there. It's like, but those girls were lost, man. The memory of those girls, I feel like, has been definitely disrespected by all of this, man. But let me play that clip quickly, and then we'll move on and talk about what's really going on here.
It did look as though they all had the same posters to hold up, and it did look as though these were people who were, if nothing else, very, very pro-Palestine and very much more interested in left-wing sort of causes than they were at hating the far right.
Thousands of people don't turn up without a level of organisation. So clearly there must have been some powers behind it, letting people know, sending out the emails, the messages, the texts, maybe even the encrypted apps. Who knows? But yeah, they managed to mobilise in numbers and have their socialist worker printed placards at the ready and their Palestinian flags.
Yeah.
But it's all kumbaya and lovely.
It is. Shall we have another quick look just before we go at one of the protests last night? I think this is Walthamstow in North London. Free Palestine is all I can hear there.
Yeah.
That would appear to be the message they're sending out.
And of course, so many left-wing commentators were swift to say how disrespectful the riots were to the memory of those 3 beautiful children so tragically murdered in Southport. To a point, they may have had a point. But likewise, I would say waving a Palestine flag and chanting free Palestine is equally as disrespectful to their memory.
I think so. Peter, thank you very much.
Okay, so time for final thoughts. So I'm going to give mine. Yeah, and I've listed it here. All right, of truth. What's really happening here, right? So 1, the global elites, the World Economic Forum, and their puppet politicians want to divide and conquer, pit all of us against each other using race, religion, political views, genders, etc. Then once they create enough anarchy and people start begging for the governments to do something, they will implement the following. Facial recognition cameras, which are already around, but it'll be full on everywhere. Right? Digital IDs, microchipping every man, woman, and child in the hand and in the back in the head with Elon Musk's Neuralink. CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, of course, which is a way to control people's money, funding, all that sort of stuff. Social credit score, carbon emission score, complete censorship and obedience of the slave population, which is us, regardless of colour, race, and religion. They don't want religion anymore. They want to destroy our belief in God. They only want a Big Brother state, like in the books like 1984, Brand New World. Processed synthetic lab-grown foods for us to consume with a special side of bugs, right, which is what they're promoting at the moment. And obviously, we're all falling into that trap, and if we don't wake up, come together, we're going to end up living to regret it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, everything you just said was written in books years ago, and it's all coming to fruition. I think the game plan is in full effect. Before today, I didn't have this much information in my head. Even stuff like Tommy and two-tier policing, I might have been misguided with my beliefs, but after this, I kind of have a bigger picture of it all, and I do see it as, like you just said, the elites are running this, both sides, creating division, forcing people to pick a side, and if you don't pick a side even, then you're on the side of the oppressor all of a sudden to whoever. And a result of all of the violence and the riots and the protesting and all that is leading to a digital system. I don't know if you saw the video of Aldi in Great, where you need a QR code, copying the Amazon style of shop. QR code, the only way to then level that up, as you said, is going to be a microchip system, and we're getting closer and closer towards that. The World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab that we saw there, what you said about eat the bugs, and they're going to put bugs and crickets and stuff like that into our food
They've already
system.
started that in America. They started using cricket flour in food.
Yeah. And, they're going to say, oh, it's got more protein and stuff like that. But, guys, they're making us eat bugs. It's a ritual that they're trying to do on us. And Starmer is a puppet for the agenda, and he's been put in place, or he's penetrated the UK government to implement that. And one of the ways they're going to do that ultimately is to get us to turn on each other. That's the start. So once you see that,
you got to control both sides.
You got to control both sides.
Both sides of the argument. So we touched on Tommy Robinson, how he's, in my opinion, I'm going to say it again, he is an Israeli Mossad agent who has been planted here in the UK, right? He's born and bred here, but he obviously he's the plant here that is going to cause the division from one side. And Keir Starmer, the politician, or whoever the politician in charge was, whether it be Keir Starmer, Rishi Sunak, whoever it is, is now the opposite side, which is going to cause the rift from the other side. And now we're going to clash, and you're going to see it all fall apart.
Yeah.
And then they'll come in when people who, and especially the ones that are in the middle who don't want to get involved, start saying, do something. What I've just told you, the list I've just given you, is what is the result. And that's what the ultimate goal is, to bring that agenda, that list to life.
And things are happening really fast. I mean, look, 2020 is nearly 5 years ago. We're already in September now. So 2020, even, 2019, technically it started in the 19. So that's 5 years ago. What's the next 5 years going to look like? And how much of society has changed? You could say, but it's kind of going back to normal, but the damage is done. Things have changed.
There's nothing normal about society.
Nah.
Right now.
And the next 5 years is going to get worse. And for all the reasons we've just laid out, and I'm sure we're going to cover more topics that's going to build into it. But guys, you got to start waking up to it, because if you don't, then it's unstoppable.
It's done. And I think we don't really have to say much more. I think we're given the truth, and if you can't see the truth, or you listen, look, put your pride, put your prejudice, put your ego away, put your bias away that you've been programmed with, and use your head, use your eyes, use your ears, read and do your research, and really go deep into what people are actually saying. Are they actually what are they actually telling you? What are they actually saying to you? Even Tommy Robinson's, Keir Starmer, Andrew Tate, whoever it is, what are they really telling you? Really, it's when you don't take the emotion out of it, and you can't sit there with a rational, clear mind and assess something, you've got a problem with you.
It's when you get lost in it.
You're going to get lost in that shit. You've openly admitted today, there's loads of things here you've learnt today. That you're like, wow,
fully. I put my hands in there, but you got to recognize when you were wrong.
Yeah.
And because as we said, before we started this back in April and May, I was, you hear Tommy Robinson, I was quick to be like, no, you need to listen to him.
Straight away.
You got to listen to him. You are taking little clips. You need to listen to him. But there you go. That was me falling into the divisional side of it all. And now, gratefully.
And fair play, I was just sat there, I haven't listened to this guy enough. Let me go and watch some lengthy podcast episodes of him. And I have done over the last couple of months when we started doing this. And I've been watching it. And I thought, something about you's all right, man. You're still off. There's things here I understand and I agree with certain points. But there's something still not right about you. And then what Loki just brought out here in his little expose of him.
So and I put my hands up and I say, look, you know what? Take the ego aside. I don't know. I didn't know it all, and I'm learning. And I think that's what we all need to do as a collective.
But a lot of people out there like you.
We just need to learn.
I like they're out there, right? And this is where it's going wrong. A lot of people out there who had views like you were holding, and then they don't know the facts. They don't know all the truth. They don't have all the information because it's hidden from them. And then they're filled up with this hate and bias because they've been manipulated into believing that this group of individuals over there are the reason I can't get a council home. They're the reasons I can't get benefits. They're the reason that I can't get a job. They're the reason my kids are in danger. And actually not stopped and gone, let me go do my research. Is this guy what this guy's saying? Any bit of information someone's giving you need to go and research it, basically. Because there is a war, spiritual war, we've talked about that, but there's also a war of information going on. And they're using that as a weapon. You've got to be smart with it. That's the best thing I can say. But look, long episode today. Good 3 hours we've gone. Yeah. I would, if you made it to the end, well done. Congratulations to make it to the end. I hope all of you make it to the end, to be honest with you. But look, we're still growing. We only just started doing this like back in May, like you said, like Treble just said. We're still trying to get a bigger audience, you know, and you don't have to agree with us. We're not expecting people to follow us who agree with us. Just get involved in the conversation. We'd love to hear your opinion. If you have listened to it, leave a comment. Of course, leave a like, share it, you know, debate it. You know, if there's anything you want us to look into, leave a link.
Please,
yeah. And we'll happily go into it, and we'll happily, you know, do an episode on it. Kind of get our way of dialogue, setting up a dialogue with you in a weird way. But as always, look, guys, like, share, subscribe. Until next time, you know, I'm Cypher.
I'm Treble.
And we out.
Peace.